scanning the black, tracking the heat, never turning back. And roll 22, a covert gaze, and roll 33 in the cosmic maze. And rolls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As fierce, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. In the silence of space, they keep their post, shields unseen yet feared the most. With precision and speed, they warn of danger, keeping us safe from the missile's anger. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. And rolls in the mix, secrets untold, silent watchers, brave and bold. In the shadows, they silently glide, protecting our interest, far and wide. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star. As beers, sentinel of the night, watching over with infrared sight, alerting us to threats afar, guiding our defenses like a guiding star.
Yo, yo, yo. I love that track, chat. Welcome tonight. This is your host, Ashton Forbes. We are going to be having a great night tonight. We're going to be looking into the lost century with Dr. Stephen Greer, how to reclaim it. The idea of this documentary is suppressed science and technology that has been kept hidden from us. And hopefully we learn a little bit about the history of it. I bet that it will coincide with a lot of what we've looked into. So I'm really excited to be going through it with you guys as well. Somebody says, hey, Yahtzee players, do you play poker? I used to be a very big poker player, guys. So let's do a little story time while we get here. Also, hello, everybody. Welcome. Appreciate you guys all being here. There's a lot of people in the chat early on. Thank you very much for being here. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up on the YouTube channel if you're watching. If you're watching on Twitter, awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So I used to be a big poker player, for people who don't know. And it's weird because I've been having some dreams related to playing poker. Not so much like extremely recently, but over the last few weeks, where I would just be like either going to play poker or wanting to play poker or like playing poker in my dreams. And it's odd because I don't think I've played poker in 3 or 4 years. But I used to be really, really big into it. I used to go to Vegas pretty frequently with my friends, and they would get mad because I would just literally disappear and just go play poker for like 12 hours straight. And they would like go to the clubs and do whatever. And I'm just sitting there playing poker at like, I would play at, they called it the $1 million table, which was at the Bellagio. I think it's like, technically I think the minimum buy-in's like 1,000 or something like that. But some people would just sit down, like there's no maximum. So some people would just sit down with like literally $50,000 in front of them, and they would just have like stacks of cash, like $10,000 bill cash stacks. And there was a time where I actually even considered whether or not like I would change my career and quit my job and just go straight into poker because there was this one night, probably the best night I had ever had playing poker. I was at that table. Usually I would buy in for like 2,000, which seems like a lot, but you can't really, you have to disassociate yourself from the money when you play poker. Because like they say, scared money can't win money. So you have to be willing to just think of it as like chips, play money, what have you. And so I think I always bought in for like 2,000, which is like, you know, that's about what you need to play at the $10, $20 blinds table. And I would play no limit. And I remember I played for like 8 hours or so. And by the end of it, I had like a pyramid of chips in front of me that was so big, I couldn't even believe what I was looking at. And I remember it was something like $24,000 or something like that. It was a lot. and I was like, wow. I was like, this is enough money in front of me to buy a car. And that's when I thought, like, holy crap, can I do this as a job? But what you realize is that there's always ups and downs in poker. And I didn't like the emotional toll it takes on you, at least for me, in terms of like the highs and the lows that you get when you either run well, don't run well, things go your way or not. So it was just fun because I remember I went and I ended up getting a hotel room in the Bellagio that night, and they have those safes. That was the first time I ever used the safe in real life. And I remember I put all this wads of cash in the safe, and I was like, Jesus, I don't want to get robbed or anything like this right now. It was scary. And I remember walking around with that in my pockets. You're like, this is the sketchiest situation ever. But no, that doesn't mean I'm rich or anything like that. You know, I've had down runs as well. When you play, there's always ups and downs. So, but that was just one of a really memorable night for me, which was fun. But yeah, no, I don't. I haven't really played recently because I just decided that the emotional toll was too much, and so I used to get like really like these weird anxiety when I would play, and then I just decided it wasn't worth it to play anymore from that. So just focus on my normal job. But anyway, so that was a fun little intro story. Hope you guys enjoyed it. What I want to say too is I've played against. If you guys know poker players, pretty much every pro poker player that's out there, like I've played against them all, either in cash games or in tournaments as well. It's really fun when you're sitting across from Phil Hellmuth, who's like, I don't know if he's got the most bracelets right now, but he's way up there. It's pretty wild to be like actually in front of a guy who you're like, you see him on TV and you're like, holy shit, he's sitting at my table right now. And that would happen a lot. I also played against Oral Hershiser, who was a famous baseball player. There was an NBA player named Kenny something or other who would play a lot. And I remember playing against him several times. There's probably other people that I'd like, they were famous, and I don't even know who they were. But yeah, it's wild, man. So did I play with Doyle? I don't think so. He passed away though, right? But yeah. Okay, guys, let's get into the fun stuff. Okay, that was enough. That was just a little fun little story. Yeah, Oral Hershiser, so random, right? It's like the most random shit ever, man. Oral Hershiser, just sitting at this table. My channel, poker. I already knew her. Yeah. Do I play blackjack? Not really. I really don't like gambling. So when I play poker, I don't consider it really a game of chance. It's more of a game of skill. And when I started, I sucked, and I watched the best players and learned, and then I got really, really, really good. And then I would play a lot. I also played a lot at the Commerce in Los Angeles as well for a while, and that's actually I quit after that. But yeah. Okay, guys. Okay, so before we dig into that, I want to talk a little bit about the ether and some of the science as well, and the free energy, just briefly. Also, I hope you guys like my little alien guy over here. I don't know if you can see, but this one right back here, right there, that one is like a little alien from the movie Alien, like creature with the tail thing on it. I forgot I had that. So also, I'm going to get the sign up this week, so it won't be sitting there on that table for very long. Oh yeah, thank you for checking out the interview with Simon Holland. So I posted a couple things on there because Simon Holland interview was really good. If you guys haven't checked out the Professor Simon Holland interview, check that out. That's a good 45 minutes to an hour of discussing the science and the orbs and a bit of the MH370 videos. Like, he wasn't as concerned about talking about the MH370 videos this time as I think he was last time, because he knew he was going to get a lot of blowback from people. Which big ups to Professor Simon Holland, because he knew he was going to get blowback from the various community for talking to me, and he still did it anyway. And he talked to me again. So check that one out for sure. Also, if you haven't checked out Gareth Ike, I think it's behind a paywall right now, but I'm hoping he posts the whole thing. But that clip that I posted from the Gareth Ike is really good. That's a really good clip. I'm honestly going to save that clip for later because I'm going to post that again. That's just a great little summary about how the United States knows what happened on the plane, etc. Oh, yeah. People also ask about the cards on the wall. Okay, so let's talk about a couple. First of all, I want to talk about my shirt. Okay, so this shirt is funny because my parents gave me this shirt I think a couple Christmases ago, when I first, like probably around 2021-ish, when I started to like follow the UFO phenomenon a little bit and realize that those Navy videos that he classified were legit. And I'm like, well, there's something going on. Aliens don't believe in you either. So that's the shirt that they gave me. So this is one of my favorite shirts to wear. Now, though, it feels weird to wear it because after this investigation, I'm like, man, I don't even know if there are aliens anymore. I'm like, and now I'm like, I don't know, like what's going on with it. But yeah, this is my favorite shirt. Aliens don't believe in you either. So for my alien people, UFO people, my parents gave me this because like they were like they knew that I was like getting into like looking into the UFO stuff. And yeah, for them, they don't care about aliens at all, but it's funny. So we're watching that today, guys. Now, okay, so this poster right over here, people asked about this one. Quickly, the story behind this poster is those are magic cards. Those are not Yu-Gi-Oh cards or whatever. So the magic card situation, I used to play magic cards, like drafted magic cards from like 2018 to 2020. Because there was a comic book store when I was living in San Diego that I knew. I knew the owner, and I would go every Wednesday and draft magic cards with the other people, and that's how I learned how to play. I actually didn't know how to play before that, and I got really, really good at that as well. To the point, I actually, and this it sounds egotistical, but it got to the point where it felt uncomfortable playing against people in person because like I could win almost every single time. It was just how it was. So because I was also playing online a lot, and I just got ridiculously good. And that's another one where I've played against a lot of the professionals of Magic cards as well. At least the ones that played on Arena, I played against like them all. And so anyway, side story. I was trying to buy this special set or whatever that was like limited edition, and then they ran out. But I already had my order in, and so it was this big fiasco. So in order to compensate for screwing everybody over, they sent people these holographic, like uncut, they call it uncut set. So this is like all the rare and mythic cards from the one set. I think it's called War of the Spark, War. And I thought it looked awesome when I got it. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome looking. I didn't expect it to look so cool. So I spent like, I think a couple $100 and got it framed. The only problem is it looks like it's slipped down like a centimeter off the top. So I need to get it like reset, but it still looks really cool. I might take a picture of it so you guys can see it. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big nerd on all stuff. I like games of strategy, like that as well. And Magic was a good buffer for the kind of very similar to like poker, but without all the stakes, so kind of thing. Yeah, War of the Spark was pretty fun too, but I used to be a real drafter. Somebody asked about all the drama that's been going on. I guess I should address that real quick around the not the Nimitz, what's it called? Eisenhower or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys the quick rundown of what happened. So this yesterday? It's been so much drama. Yeah, yesterday, early afternoon, I got a signal message from somebody who was a news source that I've never gotten anything from before. And I trusted them. And they told me that, the Eisenhower had been sunk. And I went, what? And I was like, and then they said, oh, I'm talking to my person, and I would trust this person with my life, and that it's been confirmed. And they sent me a link, and the link went to this kind of report from the day before, about like the Houthis had attacked it or whatever. And I'm like, would they have covered this up? Kind of weird. I sat on it for like an hour, and I'm sitting there thinking about it. And I said, hey, like, how sure are you of this? Like, what's the deal? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run with this, because if it's true, it'll get exposed. And if it's not, then it'll also get exposed one way or another. And it seemed really weird because I looked at those old, I probably won't use that source again. Honestly, I think that kind of hurts the credibility quite a bit. I'm not going to say who the source is because I don't want to get them attacked or anything like that. But so I looked at the sources and the articles that are out there from the attacks from the previous day, and I noticed that there was competing narratives. One saying that these missiles had not hit any of the ships, and then the other narrative saying that they had attacked the ships. I saw these videos, and I had seen the stuff about how the one video was from Arma 3 or whatever. But I needed an image to post on my post, so I used the one still image, which was probably fake, and I probably shouldn't have used that because it opened me up to additional scrutiny. I was not trying to claim that image was what had happened to the ship. I just needed an image, because when you post on Twitter, you know, if you post with an image or a video, generally gets a lot more engagement. But I got way too much engagement. I did not expect as much as I got. And I thought I was really honest about the way I reported on it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to say my source told me that this ship had been sunk. I saw the conflicting reports on social media. What I didn't realize was that they weren't talking about the attack from the day before. And so this is where like it got really sketchy, because the moment I put it out there, I got all this heat. It had almost 200,000 views in an hour. And I was like, oh shit, this is getting too much. And I posted a bunch of follow-ups where I was like, okay, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, I'll apologize. Like, I don't know. And I had all these like weird Ukraine, like nut job accounts and shit like that attacking me. A bunch of people that have gotten too many boosters for sure. And all these Warhawks, stuff like that. I was like, what did I step into here? So I deleted that and said, you know, I'm going to delete this out of a bunch of caution. I don't know what's going on. And then right after that, it was announced that there was a new attack that had just happened. And I went, oh shit, this is what that source was talking about. There was a brand new attack. And this is where like, then I was like, okay, shit, if this ship really did get in trouble or whatever, like that source just broke that story like an hour before what do they call themselves? The Yemeni armed forces broke it. And then I'm like, oh boy, because people like the one thing I'll say, guys, is it's obvious now that there's a target painted right underneath me. Like this one fake news journalist piece of shit. What was his name? George Allison from the UK Defense Journal. Absolute piece of shit, fake journalist, 100%. I mean this literally. If he wants to come after me, I'll be happy to sue the shit out of him. Wrote a fake news article about me in under 30 minutes after I made the original post. Completely took all my content out of context, attacked the image, even though I said nothing about the image in my post. Came after me extremely personally. He had a mental breakdown retweeting all of his replies. George Allen is a piece of shit and a fake journalist. Nobody should follow UK Defense Journal or whatever the shit that fake news propaganda is. I couldn't believe he had a 5-page article ready to go about me in under 30 minutes. Like this guy was as triggered as you could possibly get. And the moment that it came out that there was this second attack, he started deleting all his posts, which he should have, because if it had turned out that ship had really been sunk, that dude's career was over, 100% over. Wow. I mean, this is where people need to like chill out a little bit, because it turns out that there was a second attack, and they claim to have attacked the Eisenhower again, and they claim to have hit another destroyer as well. So what I'll say is, it looks like that ship was not obviously sunk. It's actually now supposedly 1,000 kilometers away. And everyone was attacking me over like, here, the captain posted these pictures on Twitter like 8 hours ago. And I'm like, well, this is after my source, or before my source contacted me, and before this newest attack. And it gets even better. It turns out that one of the videos that the captain posted was from March. He reposted a video from March, and everybody's going, oh, this is proof that the ship is fine. That's literally misinformation. That's the very definition of literal disinformation, is posting a picture from March, a video from March, and claiming that, oh, the ship's fine. And all these people are posting, well, he posted a picture of him baking cookies. Guys, who knows when the picture was taken? Why did these people think that the captain's sitting there on his phone tweeting from the bridge as well? Like, and so I just thought, okay, there's just so, like, the people that are like sucking up all the American war propaganda, I don't even want to deal with these people. They're fucking morons. There's no other way to put it. And so I just kind of washed my hands of the situation. And I pushed a little too far, because they community noted my follow-up post after the second attack had happened, and all the community note sources were wrong. Like, it's all related to the first attack. And I'm like, okay, well, this is stupid, whatever. So the captain's post with the video that like hundreds of people were linking, claiming this is proof that the ship didn't get attacked, that needs a community note, guys. So if you're out there, you know what? I'll go pull it up right now because we need a community note this post for the captain. The captain was posting disinformation and misinformation, and 100% needs to get a community note because there's important context. That's not from yesterday. That video he posted is from March, man. So like this is the super hypocrisy is that people were like trying to take everything I said out of context and attack me, and that what their sources were was literal misinformation. I had 2 different accounts with over 100,000 followers, these open source intelligence accounts. Guys, when you see shit that says OSINT, that's just like a way where they fake that they have some imaginary authority. All these people are doing is regurgitating fake news and propaganda on the internet. That's all they're doing, man. These people don't have any special insides. They don't have any special sources. All they do is push war propaganda for the United States, the UK, etc. They're not anything special, and this is how they grift to people and get all these followers, and they make them think that they're important. But it's all a bunch of propaganda and bullshit. And they're posting, oh, Ashton Forbes is pushing misinformation. The captain was really baking cookies, baking cookies, bro. He was getting attacked by missiles, and so then the U.S. This is the last part. We'll move on, guys. The U.S. CENTCOM, posted later that night that they did get attacked, that they shot down the missiles and that nobody got hit. So now you've got 2 sides telling different stories, but they're both agreeing that something happened. So anyone who's saying that the fucking captain was baking cookies while he's shooting down attack missiles from the Houthis needs to just get the fuck out of here, man. Like, this is what literal misinformation and fake news is. Like, if you think, oh, well, somebody posted on the captain's Twitter that some pictures of cookies, so he's baking cookies. Well, it turns out, no, he was actually shooting down missiles coming at them. Jesus Christ, man. So anyway, I just realized, like, the huge target that's on my back, right? I mean, that's wild. For the amount of attack I got, there's a giant target on my back. I'm just some dude on the internet. And I was 100% honest about everything that I posted. Now, did I jump the gun? Sure. But I was honest about what I was posting. I didn't lie at all about any of that. And it just comes down to like gatekeeping and shit and propaganda. I mean, war is all about propaganda on both sides. I totally get it. The United States would never admit if we had been hit because it shows weakness. We can't admit that the Houthis would be able, these like people that are like, you know, herding goats and shit like that are like able to hit us and damage our ships. We could never admit that. And so I get that it's just a big propaganda war, and I'm just not really interested in it. So I don't think I'm going to be posting about it anymore. But I am going to be watching that George Allison fake news journalist. I am going to watch his content because I know he's going to lie again, and we're going to expose him when he does. And then we're also going to watch that. What is that other piece of shit guy? OST Sentinel or whatever his name is. I don't know. Some Redditor who's got brain damage. We're going to watch his content too, because I looked and he just posted a bunch of bullshit. Like, you're dumb if you believe this. You're dumb if you believe that. I looked at his page. It's all Israel propaganda. It's all Hamas's terrorist propaganda. It's all Ukraine war propaganda. Like, guys, if you think that the Ukraine is winning the war against Russia, you are out of your mind. I'm going to do the same thing he does. If you think the Ukraine's going to beat Russia, you are a fucking idiot. Russia's already taken over like a significant percentage of the country that they wanted to take over. Ukraine has no chance against Russia. They never did. And if you believe that they did, you were probably just sucking down U.S. propaganda. So that's the truth. Whether or not you take it or leave it, I don't really care. So yeah, these people, like, there's a lot of these fake accounts out there, man, that especially when they're hiding behind no real names, you got to be careful about them, man. What they're trying to do is they're trying to like grift off for engagement and shit like that. So I took it as an opportunity to post some more MH370 stuff this morning because I figured it would get more eyeballs on the MH370 stuff. And of course, nobody can attack me on the MH370 stuff. There's nobody in this world who can stand up to my level of knowledge about the plane, the videos, and the science combined. So, of course, nobody did attack it. You know, most of them are just, you think that orbs zapped the plane. Hey, I'm Goofy. You're silly. You don't know how science works. I'm like, okay, man, sure. Well, whenever you want to set up the live debate on BBC or whatever, let me know. I'm not afraid. Okay. Let's get into this stuff right now. So, okay, so have I dealt with all the stories and the dramas? Is there anything else anybody wanted? Oh, yeah, so I'm not going to be doing any more follow-ups. Oh, okay, so yeah, the last bit was that, and then so now I've made friends with these the people that are on the side of like the Muslims. They all are now buddies with me, and they're all sending me a bunch of information about it. And I'm like, I mean, look, I got no dog in this fight. I'm an American. I love my country, but we do some fucked up shit to other countries. And but I'm not going to get in the middle of this. Like, they want to use me to help, push their side of the propaganda. I'm just going to get out of the middle of it. But assalamu alaikum, I believe means peace be with you. I do respect Islam and Muslims as well as all other religions, and I don't think we should be at war with anybody. I think that war is just a big racket for money. And if we want this world to survive, then we need to all find peace. Because if we don't, then our differences aren't going to be they will be what destroys us. The technology, once we get our technology to a certain level, we will definitely destroy ourselves, pretty much. Okay. Yeah, and respect to Muslim. I mean, for me, I'd probably identify more with Buddhism at the moment, just because of the idea of reincarnation. But I love the Muslim religion because I feel like there's a spiritual element to it that I connect with, even though I was technically baptized Roman Catholic and raised Roman Catholic. But I don't know. My horizons have been broadened. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, we should just respect all humans, man. And also, I think it's totally messed up what we did in Iraq and Syria. We just completely like destroyed several countries and Afghanistan. Just it's wild, man. Okay. Yeah, I love all the good vibes in the chat, by the way. Appreciate it. Okay. The other stuff too. So on the free energy stuff, I don't have an update just yet, but I do plan to have some updates this week. A lot of people ask me, can you tell me who you signed, what entity you signed the NDA with? I can't do that just yet. You will find out at some point. The main reason why I'm not saying anything is that like I'm already under so much fire right now. I don't want to open up that entity to additional scrutiny at the moment. But what I will say right now, guys, is the plan is I've already been working on a demo model. So this has been in the works for a while, even before the announcement, to get a demo model set up, and then I can be there in person with the other entity, and we can do a video of the model, of the demo model working. And I've been thinking about like maybe we'll just have it like charging our phones while we're taking the video, or maybe some other stuff. I don't know. And the hard part is we're not going to be able to show exactly the secret sauce of how it works. So people are going to say, oh, you're hiding a battery under there or whatever. But we will set up the devices to register the wattage so that people can see that it's literally producing over Unity. So it's going to be very similar probably to the Thomas Bearden video that will show it working. And I think that'll be pretty fun. And then at that point, I'll probably reveal who the entity is that I've been working with, and then we'll be opened up to even more scrutiny at that point. But also probably even before that, I'm planning on trying to set up a way where people can solicit interest if they want to purchase the device. What I will say is this. So this is just kind of inside information related to announcements I haven't yet made. I did ask because somebody said yesterday or in the last stream, the average household uses 25 kilowatt hours per day, which is 25,000 watts of energy per day. And that would include, probably your heating and cooling and all that stuff, your refrigerator, all the stuff that takes a lot of energy. And a device of that magnitude is going to cost probably, and don't hold me to this, we haven't worked out the exact details, but could cost upwards of $50,000. So people have asked how much money is going to cost. I've been pretty consistent. We're looking at the tens of thousands. So it's not a cheap situation. And this is where you can see the difficulty with this, is that this is not a situation where it's just free for everybody. The device is pretty expensive to build, including the materials and the labor to put it together. The one that the demo model that we're setting up is going to be, I think, a little bit more scaled down than that. But that's one that could power your whole house. So like you would plug that in and like your house is running on free energy like forever. at least for like decades. So you can see this is the situation, guys. So the reason why I'm pointing this out is that this is an industry. This is a commercialized industry. These are going to cost like as much as cars cost, especially if you're going to, and it's not going to be cheap. And what I'm hoping we can do is we can get some business to the point where we can get it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. We can get the materials to cost less because you get economies of scale when you purchase more and more and more. The manufacturing process can become cheaper and more efficient, and that the technologies can improve where it doesn't take as highly skilled people to put it together, because that's a big cost factor as well. And if that can happen, then we can get those prices down. And again, this is just theoretical, but if you could half that price, down to 25,000, now it's much more obtainable. And it seems like a lot, but if your bill, let's say your electric bill is $500 per month, that's $6,000 per year just for your electric bill. And that's your average. And so you could see now at 25,000, then you're just going to pay it back in 4 to 5 years. So there's a very real cost benefit analysis related to this technology. It's not, I wish if like all the materials were really cheap, then people would, of course, open source and give it away for free. But since the materials aren't cheap, then this is why it makes it a lot more complicated. So this isn't the kind of thing that's going to change the whole world overnight, the same way where electric cars don't change the whole world overnight. Electric cars were great, but they were really expensive right away. And yes, they're cheaper. It's cheaper to refuel than gas, like 10 times cheaper. But there's a cost benefit way analysis to be done. So I imagine that the first people that would be buying them are going to be businesses, maybe like apartment complexes, and then also potentially like rich people, which is rich people are already buying them. I know for a fact. But that's how I imagine that part playing out, guys. So that's a little bit of information for you guys right off the bat. And it's not, so the reason too, people ask, well, like, why can't I invest right away? Well, when companies are private, then you can't invest in their stock. And usually companies are private. They only solicit investors from like angel investors, and they don't want to have a bunch of investors. They want the minimum number to be able to control the business and how much market share they own. So, that would be a thing that we could talk about in the future about that kind of stuff. But early on, the business is already pretty much set up in terms of rolling a few of these devices out per time. So it's really a matter of soliciting people, starting to build the business from the ground up, and then getting it to those levels where investors might be. The reason why you want investment is because you want to scale it up. You want to scale it up. And that's where I think we could start talking about getting the price down. So one more thing that I'll drop on you guys as well is what was I gonna say? Oh, the way I think that it's going to work out. And okay, so good question. Why not crowdfund this? Because there's no reason to crowdfund it. The manufacturing process is already set up in this case. That's the reason why I went with the entity and reason why I signed the NDA is it's like you don't have to like build out all the manufacturing process. It's already ready to go, which is a huge opportunity because then basically makes me like a salesperson who's and also an influencer to get the information out to other people with this entity already set up. So the other thing that I'm thinking is there's probably going to be like an alpha wave of early adopters is how I'll do it or how we will do it is have a setup of a list of questions that people have to answer, including their real identity and things like that. Why they're interested, how many kilowatt hours they need for their device, and roll it out like that, where then those people can be early adopters who can then, through word of mouth, prove to other people that it works. But there also they would have to sign NDAs as well, that they can't explain or show how the devices work publicly. And that would be to protect the business, at least in the early stage. Now, when it gets to the point where there's a wide rollout beyond the alpha phase, that would be the point where the NDAs probably aren't going to be as restrictive anymore because we know that people are going to figure out how it works and then other people are going to copy it. So for those people that want it to be open source, I'm sure that information is going to get out there. And there's a whole new slew of challenges related to that. So I haven't even made the announcement regarding that yet. And that information may change, but that's what I've been thinking about with this other entity where we've been talking about it, trying to figure out the best way to get it out there, guys. Yeah, we probably will be able to ship overseas. I don't know the international complexities. And also, there's a very real possibility the government just comes in and shuts this shit down. Like, guys, there's a lot of risks here, man. This is not like a guaranteed thing. That's the reason why I'm keeping it, um, as transparent as I can, because I could see a real possibility that if I make too much noise with this, or we make too much noise with this, the government just steps in and they're like, nah, Privacy Invention Act or whatever bullshit we're about to watch on this documentary right now. And they just come in and nix the whole thing. That would be the worst case scenario. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. Part of the reason why I signed with this entity as well is that I think it minimizes the chance, because they've already produced over 30 of these and sold them to people. It tells me that A, it's a proven device. B, the government hasn't shut them down yet, but they've been doing it kind of in the back channels. So if we start making too much noise with this, I'm a little bit afraid that the government's going to step in. We'll see. And I will answer this question as well. What about services? I did ask, of course, about it. Is it going to break down? What are the situations? The manufacturer is so confident in the device and its quality that they've said that they would pay for basically any breakdowns or anything that were a break on the device, and that people have already had them for like over a year, maybe even multiple years, and that there hasn't been any issues related to them. So that should go to tell you that the quality is pretty solid. So I don't know about that as well, but most likely we would have a thing in there to say if there's any breakdowns or whatever, it would be covered unless you start messing with it. Like that's the kind of NDA it needs to be, is like, if you mess with that device, then, you broke it, you bought it kind of situation. So this is the reason why the first alpha round would be like solicited people, because we want to only sell to people that we trust, that don't have malicious intent. And it's going to be hard to vet those people. But that's kind of what we're thinking in the background, guys. I will say it's not the Meg. This is a device that is proprietary. That is not any device that's already been out there. So I can say that much at least. Okay. Oh yeah, you guys want a Discord invite? Sure, let's do a Discord invite. So those are the only questions I'm willing to discuss right now, but more to come as well, especially probably this week. I'm working as hard as I can on getting everything ready to go related to it, so that we can start soliciting interest from people. I'm also trying to reach out to influencers that might be interested, that are willing to sign an NDA to see it and then advocate for it being successful. Because again, I think that even if we film it or whatever, like, people are still going to say you're cheating. There's wires, there's batteries, blah, blah, blah. The readings are being rigged. I mean, some people are never going to believe it. So the only way you can make it happen is you get people to buy it. You give them a guarantee it's going to work. Then word of mouth, they say, yeah, it does work. Not messing around. And if you've been watching this stream for a while, like, it's going to work. Like, we know the science is there. We know the quantum fluctuations work. We know about the Casimir force. We know the 0-point energy fields exist all around us. We know the ether is real. So it's going to work. But for the people who are skeptical, which of course you should be, we're going to switch. We want to flip them so that they believe. Can't wait for the combo next week. Thank you very much for the donation. Oh, Oppenheimer Inch. Yeah, so I'm going to be chatting with Oppenheimer Diamond. How do you get on the alpha list? That information will be coming out. Working through the details of what the questions are and how we'll vet through that list. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet. I actually have a meeting to talk about that in the next few days as well. So all coming soon, guys. Appreciate the interest and everything like that. And yeah, we're also worried about people trying to discredit us, to like buy it and then either show it all over social media or to claim that it doesn't work or whatever. Like, got to be very careful about the people that we sell to in the early alpha stage. It's got to be people that we trust. So if anybody does solicit interest and you get turned down, I apologize ahead of time. We're just being very, very careful in the early stages. So pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Don't give me one. I take everything apart. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it's gonna be heavy vetting. Like, we're gonna 100% going to be doing multiple phone calls with the people that are interested, feeling them out, wanting to know. We're going to be asking questions as well about how, why, what they're going to plan on doing with it, all that kind of stuff. And there's going to be NDAs to be signed for the people that are the early adopters, that will specify how they can use it and how they can show it, and what they can say. So more to come on that, guys. But I appreciate that everyone's excited, because truth is, I'm super excited about it. Like, I literally know how it works, and I'm extremely confident that it is actually going to produce over Unity, and that the product is legit. And so I'm excited about it. And if this doesn't work out, like if this ends up being some kind of, I don't know, 5D super galaxy brain scam, then I'll probably step away from everything. Truthfully. If this is somehow a scam, because there's just no way. Like I've seen too much. Then I would step away from it. So that's what I want to say to the people who are skeptical that are out there. So if this does end up being some kind of scam, well, good. I'm happy for you, because I'll probably be stepping away from all this stuff and just go back to my normal life. Okay. Gonna be crazy. Yeah, and this is too okay. Well, last thing I'm gonna say too is that I think there's a lot of business. Like, I think that early on, most of the people that are gonna be interested are gonna be from like the business perspective. Like somebody said, I keep thinking about the pot farmers or whatever, how they use these grow lights. I don't know this for a fact, guys. Don't come at me, but apparently they use a lot of grow lights. So these are the people that are like cash rich that would want a device like this, that like they don't have to be on the grid, and they can just set this device up, and now you can grow in the middle of anywhere, and you're not connected to the grid. And it can, lamp all your marijuana plants. Those, I can see a lot of business to business stuff in the early stage, where people have power needs and they've got a lot of money, and then they can use it from a business perspective. Definitely could see that. Those will probably be the most of the people that I can imagine, at least that would be a good person to solicit, because giving them an NDA, they'd have skin in the game. Because if they were to break the NDA, they could get sued and lose their business. So we'll see, guys. I really don't know, but we'll find out. Pretty sweet. Yeah. And yeah, should we get to the science streams, guys? Marijuana plants. I love it. I just love saying marijuana. I don't know why. So it's pretty exciting though, guys. It's definitely exciting, man. Okay. And yeah, man, the other thing too is that, like, I don't know, like you can just imagine free energy in general. Like there's so many awesome applications, like the business to business stuff, even residential. And then from the residential perspective, like plugging it into like a battery, like one of those Tesla wall batteries, and then just using that to distribute the power. Like I can just envision a future where you have these generators, you have the generator in your basement, like kind of where you have like a hot water heater today. And it's just producing all the energy you need for your house. And then you have like a wall battery in like your garage, and then it feeds the power to that, and then you can use that to charge your car. It's exciting, man. There's a lot of utility possibilities for it. I really like the idea a lot. So we'll see. Okay. So more to come on that, guys. Again, yeah, we're gonna bring on the movie right now. Thanks for everybody for hanging out. It just gets me excited when I think about that. Yeah, I like it. It's sunlight. Somebody asked about the temperature as well. I did ask about the temperature situation. Like, it's not the kind of device that you want to have outdoors, but apparently it can be outdoors. You just have to like put it in some kind of box or something that's going to keep it not become completely frozen. So yeah, I don't know. That's just another little piece of detail. Hey Noah, what's up, everybody? You guys ready for this? Okay. So here we go, guys. I'm going to play this. We're going to watch the Stephen Greer thing. I'm hoping that this does not get us copyright strike. It's on Rumble, so I don't think that we're going to get that weird YouTube thing. We'll see. I'm also going to play it at 1.25 speed. It's about an hour and 40 minutes, so that should drop it down to about an hour and 20 minutes. I think that's about perfect. Okay, I'll answer one more question. The over Unity device is scalable, so the first models will most likely be built to spec, meaning you would say how much kilowatt hours you need out of it, and then a device and then there would be pricing that's relative to that. But it can be scaled up or scaled down. So that's why I said I gave you guys that base value for like a average house around 50,000 potentially. But if it was more or less, then that the range can definitely change. And if you wanted like something really big, then yeah, you can imagine. So. And again, don't hold me to those numbers. That's just Very, very rough estimate based on the little information that I know at this point. But I wanted to give you guys a ballpark for what we're talking. And then we might have like add-ons and stuff like that. Like if you want to have like your stuff engraved into it, or if you want it to come in a pink box, or I don't know. I haven't really figured all the details out just yet, guys. How much for 121 gigawatts? Okay, here we go. Science time, guys. Let's do this. Okay, one more because I'm just excited about this. Imagine a power grid where every home, every apartment, every business is a positive contributor to the grid's power. A lot already are. My uncle and aunt, they've had solar power on the roof of their house for, I think, over 10 years now. And they contribute positively back to the power grid. I think that's just, personally, that's awesome to me. I'm just super excited about it. I'm praying that this works out. I'm praying that we don't get silenced, and I'm praying that I don't specifically get silenced. Really am, chat. Okay, guys, let's do this. It's videos time. Let's see here. Also, I just learned a new secret with StreamYard. I can make this side panel go away, and then my view becomes like way bigger. I had no idea I could do that. That's too funny. I had no idea. Okay, I think this is good. Sorry, I'm getting it set up correctly here for us. I'm going to move this one over, so I'll be looking to the right when that goes on. I'm going to make this one full screen. Okay, chat. I might move this if it's not good.
We are hurtling toward the day when climate change could be irreversible.
Sea levels already altering this nation's coast.
China's capital is choking in its worst pollution of the year.
5% of species will become extinct.
Sea levels rising, glaciers melting.
You guys can hear it, right?
Nothing. The picture of the world is one of absolute devastation.
There's no convincing scientific evidence for man-made climate change.
We're spewing 162 million tons
Sarah Palin.
of human-caused global warming pollution.
Okay, I'm going to stop my Bluetooth
every
all
single day, as if this is an open sewer.
Satellite data demonstrate for the last 17 years, there's been zero warming, none whatsoever. It's why, you remember how it used to be called global warming? And then magically the theory changed to climate change?
Sure.
The reason is it wasn't warming, but the computer models still say it is, except the satellites show it's not.
We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is the money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
Drill, baby, drill. Drill, baby, drill.
You can have the best capitalism, global capitalism in the world, but if people are dead, they're dead. It's over.
Enough is enough. The world is at a breaking point. Catastrophic climate change, biosphere collapse, and a global energy crisis have been met with apathy.
Yeah, I was muted. Is the sound better now?
It's going to take everything we know and love.
Like clockwork, our corporate overlords
Turn it up to
present us
max.
with two untenable options. Submit to an Orwellian itinerary of energy rationing and population control, or ride the status quo into the abyss. Both sides are right, and both sides are wrong, which means both sides are missing a critical piece of the puzzle.
Since the early 2000s, we have seen an increasing number of unauthorized and or unidentified aircraft or objects in military-controlled training areas and training ranges and other designated airspace.
Some of them appear to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. That's pretty intriguing.
I think I would, without discernible means of propulsion, I would say that we're not aware of any adversary that can move an object without discernible means of propulsion.
The phrase unidentified flying object is a deliberately obfuscating term. What it really is an alternative energy and propulsion device. This is the real reason for the secrecy. These technologies, if they were disclosed, would end fossil fuels, pollution, and poverty overnight, and usher in a new era of abundance, freedom, and peace. Instead, they have been kept secret for over 100 years. Dr. Stephen Greer, the world's leading expert on UFOs and extraterrestrial intelligence, has been advising presidents and heads of state for 30 years on the urgency of the situation. We don't have much time left.
What is this lost century? This lost century is literally 100 years, more than that now, of technologies that have existed that have vanished. I mean, I was just recently in a meeting in Washington with the people who manage the black budget of the United States. They have no access to this material. because between the late 1800s and now, the ingenious inventions and sciences that could have moved us.
Oh, sorry, Diamond. How dare you? Dr. Stephen Greer is the #1 leading expert on UFOs. You know, he just said it himself. I thought that was a little silly. Okay, sorry.
Off that extinction level path that we're on have all been ruthlessly suppressed, confiscated. And the only way that's going to change is not going to change in Washington. It is not going to change in a large corporation. Unlikely. It's going to change by us, the people doing it. So it's about us. Let's look at this. You know what this is?
Dude, this is a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 miles from the west.
Everybody loves these videos, huh?
This is an alternative energy and propulsion device. These are things that have existed all the way back into the 60s. The one that they call the Tic Tac here off the coast of San Diego, the white one, looked very much like this. These have been made by the Lockheed Skunk Works. And my favorite letter of all time, the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, Ben Rich, look at the date on it, 1986. There's an answer to a letter someone wrote and says, are these UFOs man-made or extraterrestrial? He says, many of our man-made.
So it's pretty weird that he just said that the Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin because that's what Jeremy Corbell said that Commander Fravor was told by the CIA, was that the Tic Tac was a Lockheed Martin technology. Pretty weird.
UFOs are really unfunded opportunities. I mean, if it was released for public use, it'd be an enormous industry. Every meeting I go in Washington, I said, see that thing you guys are all talking about? That's Lockheed Skunk Works.
They have left us behind, and everything we see out in our world today is absolutely a construct. It's an absolute construct. The internal combustion engines are obsolete. The nuclear power plants are obsolete. The coal fire plants are obsolete. We have the wind generators, those are obsolete. The solar power, it's all obsolete. If we could follow the gravity research that the contractors and research institutions have been doing, we could see that bright future as well.
So a lot of people say, well, how is this thing moving? There's no fuel on board. There's no nuclear power plant. There's no jets and no rockets. Well, way back in the 40s, Dr. Casimir,
technically they are UFOs because it's technically unidentified flying objects.
Predicted, and later it was proven in the 50s, what's called the zero-point energy field.
Zero-point energy, or what Nikola Tesla called radiant energy, is the most profound and transformative gift that the quantum world offers us.
Yes.
The seemingly empty vacuum of space is actually a roiling sea of virtual particles fluctuating in and out of existence, and all those fluctuations require energy. If we could tap into this energy source, we would unlock a virtually unlimited reservoir of clean, free energy. Extraterrestrial spacecraft are known to harness zero-point energy.
U.S. scientists is understanding what this was an energy device that used zero-point energy. That's what they referred to as zero-point energy. And it was connected in such a manner that this device could power, from very small flashlight or very small watch up to a city. And power was determined by what the demand on it was.
The implications of free energy go far beyond bringing monthly electric bills to zero or running a car without gasoline. Most of the cost of making anything, from growing food to building a skyscraper, is the energy of pulling raw materials out of the ground, shipping, processing, shipping again, and so on. If the cost of energy goes to zero, the cost of agriculture and manufacturing becomes negligible. Other critical solutions, like water desalination to end drought or air purification, both of which are prohibitively expensive due to energy costs, would suddenly become viable in a free energy paradigm. A new world where humans live in perfect harmony with nature is possible within our lifetimes.
Okay, I want to say something real quick here. I'm going to give a criticism, is that when you learn economics, it's very important that what we're talking about is we're talking about moving a variable cost, which is the energy that you pay per month, to a fixed cost, which is a device that you have to buy. But if you look at economics in the long run, you realize that those fixed costs become variable costs again. So when they say that it's literally free energy, that's a misnomer. This is where we have to get outside of this mindset where it's going to cost nothing. The reality is I gave you those prices. The fixed cost is high, but after that, the energy you extract becomes free. But you're still going to have that variable cost of the initial investment depreciated over time. And then the idea is as that becomes more and more efficient, then yes, those costs do get significantly lower to the point where it can, in theory, become literally free. But that's not going to happen right away. It's going to take probably decades to get to a situation like that. So I do want to clarify that. I think that's very unfair for them to state the way that they did. It's important that people understand the true economic implications.
But this would mean the end of oil, gas, and coal, as well as the centralized power grid and the global macroeconomic system, which will stop at nothing to protect the hundreds of trillions of dollars at stake.
The consequences of keeping all this secret. We are in the process right now of doing something that I term planeticide, the deliberate killing of an entire planet with malice aforethought through greed and stupidity and power. All the damage we're going to see in a few minutes, totally avoidable. Every bit of it since the 1920s at least. And we can prove this.
I'm afraid that the term planeticide is all too real. The ecocide doesn't really say it. We are in the process of destroying the biosphere, destroying a habitable world for certainly the majority of the animals on the planet. I'm an older guy. I won't be around to see the worst of this, but I have not just trepidation, but terror at what's going to be faced by my son's generation and the generations that come after him.
If you're a hippie, you're going to love free energy. Here you go.
When someone asks me how bad is the crisis, I kind of don't know where to begin. Because what does that even mean? Does it mean what is the threat to humanity? Have we reached some kind of tipping point? There are certain things that get under my skin or that especially alarm me. And one of them is the insect holocaust, for lack of a better word. The precipitous decline in the number of insects, the number of species, the total biomass of insects. A lot of studies put that decline at 80%. When I was a child, when we went on a long drive, especially in the summer, like we'd have to have the windshield wipers on from time to time to clear off the bug splatter. Like you just don't have that anymore. Insects are like the foundation of the terrestrial food chain. Like you can't have a thriving ecosystem without thriving insects.
And this is the sixth great extinction that's happening on the planet, and it's 100% man-made, all of it. We have to all awaken, because what's happened, I think we're like a frog being boiled slowly. And suddenly we're going to wake up and find out, it's too late. 150 species every day go extinct. Now, these aren't all animals, it's all kinds of species.
The planet has been dying at human hands for a long time. A naturalist I like, J.B. McKinnon, he calls the world a 10% world as kind of a poetic expression of how much life has declined. So there's maybe 10% of the whales that there were 500 years ago, and the seabirds and the wetlands and the mangrove swamps, and the fish biomass. We don't even know what we have lost, although on some level we feel it. This is part of the despair, part of the alienation and the anguish that sensitive people feel.
Ice caps are melting.
Guys, I don't know if I'm going to get copyright strike. That's why I keep pausing periodically. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm doing my best here. I'll probably have to delete this after, so I hope you guys appreciate it.
Oceans are certainly going to rise. They could rise as much as 20 feet if we have the big ones melt.
This is all the way back in 1958, and there was a full-page color ad in Life magazine. Everybody was reading Life magazine at the time. And it's by an oil company which was the predecessor of Exxon, which was called Humboldt. Each day, Humboldt supplies enough energy to melt 7 million tons of glacier. Here they're bragging about it in 1958. So this company gets rebranded as Exxon in the 1970s. And in July 1977, they have a meeting inside Exxon headquarters where their chief scientist, James Black, is showing slides that are warning that burning fossil fuels are going to eventually endanger all of humanity. They know this in 1977. Present thinking holds that man has a time window of 15 years before the need for hard decisions regarding changes in energy strategies might become critical. Well, those 15 years were up in the early 1990s.
Look at this. How long ago was it recognized that this was a disaster? Senior scientist Exxon, 45 years ago. And actually it was known before then. This is insanity. This is a civilization gone mad.
These companies have really not been held accountable. We've lived in the fossil fuel economy now for more than 100 years. And it's just been accelerating. The amount of wealth has been increasing. You have situations now where the head of ExxonMobil goes on to become the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson under President Trump.
And I'm an environmentalist. A lot of people don't understand that. I think I know more about the environment than most people.
So there is really very little accountability that exists.
Many scientists, such as myself, have discovered that there are very concerted, well-oiled machines that provide false information, even to scientific and academic programs. It's called capture, where they try to rationalize away this problem and everything's fine.
One company, Exxon alone, has funded more than 40 different groups to keep alive its campaign to deny the worst impacts of climate change. There was a guy named Martin Hoffert, and he's a professor of physics at New York University, a consultant to Exxon for their climate modeling during the 1980s. And he said this:
the advertisements that Exxon ran in major newspapers raising doubt about climate change were contradicted by the scientific work we had done and continued to do. Exxon was publicly promoting views that its own scientists knew were wrong, and we knew that because we were the major group working on this. This was
Chat, look at this tie. Look at this tie, chat. This guy's tie has got it going on, and he's got the stripes on his white shirt. Not the fashion I would go with, but he's rocking it.
moral and has greatly set back efforts to address climate change.
Here's a case where the Canadian government ordered the scientists not to disclose the extent of it. So what you get in the media is a very sanitized version of this problem, which many people believe we may have already gone over the edge of the red line, how far we can go without a safe return to a sustainable civilization.
China is the world's biggest greenhouse gas emitter by a huge margin. And if there's anything clear so far coming out of this year's Communist Party Congress, it's that coal is having a bit of a revival in the world's second largest economy. A senior energy official said China will give full play to coal as ballast in the country's energy mix.
Why are we digging?
Chat, imagine thinking that coal is the future. Coal's got to be like the worst possible power producer. Like, come on.
Stuff up out of the ground when we haven't needed to burn coal since about the 1920, 1930 time period. Here's your solar panels. I had to replace my solar panels with 5 more, and they all end up in a landfill. They're toxic.
That was one of my favorite pictures. Damn it. The solar panels is the biggest scam in the world. Look at these solar panels. This is when they get damaged from like a weather. You just gotta, they're toxic. You gotta like throw them in the trash. They just become landfill garbage. Like, we gotta get real green energy, not this solar panels bullshit, man. Like, we need real 0 point energy.
In a landfill, they're toxic. You know, we're working in a paradigm, whether it be fossil fuels or what is being proposed as new energy, that isn't going to work.
Certainly not opposed to renewable technologies, but they are dependent on weather. They're dependent on how much wind there is in an area, or they're able to harness of the sun, and they cost an awful lot to.
Look at that. It's so ugly.
Bring up to speed.
No environmentalist wants to see vast landscapes converted to biofuels, or pit mines to mine silver and cobalt and lithium, wind turbines that kill birds and mar the landscape. This isn't what we signed up for, but this is what happens when we abdicate our relational care for every place and ecosystem and being on Earth. And
real quick, Brian, thank you for the donation. I can't go into details about how the device works, but I appreciate the donation. But I can't just say anything about how the device works. I don't want to risk anything related to it, but sorry. But thank you for the donation. Appreciate it.
transfer that onto yet another quantitative cost benefit paradigm.
And you have lithium fields. The amount of pollution from these lithium mining operations for lithium-ion batteries in your Tesla. Not to mention they.
Chat, that green pool of disgusting water. This looks safe. You guys want to go swimming in this? Who wants to go swimming? Yikes! Look at that.
Lithium mining operations for lithium-ion batteries in your Tesla. Not to mention they catch fire periodically. Now, fair enough. I'm an emergency and trauma doctor. Gasoline cars catch fire more. I can tell you some horror stories, which I'm sure you don't want to hear. And then we have this whole morass of how we're living, on wires.
Look at that.
We haven't
Look at these wires.
And so the entire system is set up.
That shit's Brazil, chat. This is Brazil for sure, like Thailand.
To benefit a relatively small number of global oligarchs and financial interests that we absolutely have to say enough. They've had 150 years to do this.
If we want to live among other life in the future and not in a concrete hellscape where we retreat into virtual worlds to compensate for the loss of what is alive, then we have to change our ways. And we have to start acting from our care for life.
Most of you know that there are these nanoparticulate plastics that are in the entire food chain. They cause cancer, they disrupt hormones, they damage your brain. And why? Well, if we had quote-unquote free energy systems from what we're going to describe as zero-point energy field, you would never have to have anything wasted because you have 100% recycling because the cost of the energy would be zero. And then we have all these families.
It's not going to be zero, chat. So this is where Greer gets it wrong. The chat, it's not. The devices don't cost nothing to make. That's the downside. I wish we could make an over Unity device that was like $100 and just. If I could make an over Unity device that was $100, I would just tell everybody how it worked. I wouldn't bother even trying to. I would just be like, here's the information. Go make your own. Just to be honest with you guys. But the fact that the cost is a prohibiting factor Makes a big difference from the business perspective. Also, somebody asked me about the pole shift stuff. I get asked about the pole shift stuff a lot. My view on the pole shift is I really don't know, but even if the pole shift is going to happen, it's going to be catastrophic. There's nothing we can do about it. Just, there's nothing you can do.
What's happening around the world because of the absolute social injustice of a system that is driven by greed and scarce resources. When, as Tesla pointed out, there's an infinite amount of energy to be tapped in what has now been quantified as the 0-point energy field. How do you tap it? Now, mainstream science says it can't be tapped. It's there theoretically. Not true. And you're going to find out how untrue that is.
International Panel on Climate Change, which issues annual reports about the dire state of things that we're facing. It says in their latest report that over the next decade alone, between 32 million and 130-some million people are going to be driven into poverty because of the changing climate in their countries.
3 billion people, almost half the world's population, has no way to cook their food. They have no way to heat. But what they're doing, they have to survive, is cutting down the rainforest and cutting down the scrub and shrubs in the desert. You have what's called the desertification, where you have the growth of deserts going on exponentially. You can take maps from 40 years ago and now and just see the growth of this dead zone. Why? You have 3 billion people that don't even have, even if they had access to fossil fuels, they don't have access. This is how they're living.
It's not only that 3 billion people don't have access to energy sources, it's also that their way of life is under constant assault by our own, primarily through the financial system that imposes debt through development loans and other mechanisms on most of the world, who then must, in order to meet the debt payments, must convert their environment into commodities and their time and energy into labor for the global marketplace. So if you don't include those kinds of issues, and you're only talking about let's bring more energy to the world so that we can raise them up.
Everybody wants the Four Orbs merch, guys. I haven't become a full sellout yet, but at some point we might need that. People have literally offered to make shirts designs for me. I don't know, guys. Maybe we'll see in the future. Who knows? But for now, no, we're still trying to keep it legit.
To be like ourselves. Come on, it's not working. Being like ourselves is not working. Look at the depression. Look at the suicide. Look at the addiction. Look at the obesity. Look at the despair. This is not a fit destination to.
Okay, let's real quick. This is a great question. Also, thank you very much, Sam. I think that was Sam, right, who did that donation. Yeah, Samuel Houston. Thank you. 0 point. Is it an energy field or the center of one? What is the 0 point energy? Like, I was reading that paper that I posted last night, and you want to think of the 0 point energy field as all the quantum fluctuations that are always going on, all summed up together. Classical physics takes all those energies and they just cancels them out. It just says they don't exist. That's what literally classical physics does. But they do exist. We know exist. And we know that since the universe is so huge, if you add up all those little fluctuations, it's going to be a huge amount of energy. That's the energy that can account for dark energy and dark matter. It honestly seems obvious when you start to think about it from that perspective. Is that everywhere all along, there's little quantum fluctuations that are going on. And if you just add all that up, you get to a huge amount of energy. And then if you can amplify it, if you can imagine like an oil field, chat. So imagine an oil field and you have little oil drops that are like seeping up. What do? You put a pump there. Imagine putting a pump here in space-time, and now you're going to pump the energy straight out. Now you can amplify the amount of energy you're getting as opposed to just waiting for the oil to seep up. Think of it like that. Let's go back to that.
Evangelize throughout the world. We need some humility here.
The dire emergency in East Africa, the drought there exacerbating the hunger crisis. As many as 20 million people could be starving by the middle of this year. Half of them.
That's Fred Durst narrating this. Guys, someone fact check that, please.
Children.
I firmly believe there can be no peace on this planet without justice. And there can be no justice when half the population of the world is required to live in abject poverty. It's a direct result of the world's energy system. So I always liken this. We're living in this sort of the Truman Show. It's a perfect metaphor for the world we're living in now where, the people who are saying we need more oil, gas, and coal until we get something to replace it.
Guys, you got to chill donation so we can watch the movie. But thank you very much, TH600 Mike. I will absolutely get you that autograph in the future if this all plays out the way I'm hoping it does. It says, "Get those alien sheiks." I can't wait to sign that autograph. Thank you very much, man.
You're right. But look what's happening all over the world. On the other hand, the people say we can't just keep drill, baby, drill, and burning oil and gas.
Guys, one of my favorite days when Fred Durst retweeted one of my quantum entanglement posts.
Whole because we're destroying the biosphere, and they're right. Now, when both sides are right and both sides are wrong, someone's been had. We've been had by people who want to deceive us and think that we're actually having a legitimate debate about energy and the environment. We are not. We're all Jim Carrey living in this Truman Show of a construct. So everyone's saying, well, you know, we don't have enough fossil fuels coming out.
He just said it. Truman Show and a construct, guys. I agree. Every day I feel more and more like our reality is the Truman Show. It's been just laid out for us and that we're living in a construct more and more. I mean, if you watch my post about today about the Big Bang not existing, like everybody in there is like, we live in a construct. God must be real, intelligent design. And I'm sitting there like, I would have thought that's crazy if you asked me when I was like 18 years old. And now I'm like, nah, that seems like the most logical answer.
And the density of energy from solar and wind isn't enough. So let's build more of these. Well, then you're stuck with 1 million years of toxic, life-killing waste from nuclear reactors.
Greenhouse gas emissions would only decrease, according to a recent study, by 4% if we double the amount of energy that we're getting from nuclear.
Everybody keeps donating. Charles, thank you very much. Do you believe the USA hides something unknown about energy? 1,000%. I know it for a fact. I know it for a fact. The United States is hiding free energy over unity from the world. They know it works. They're probably using it. I'll say, I'm going to be careful about my wording. I don't want to get disappeared. I'll say I'm 99.999% sure they're literally using it right now, potentially in the military or other purposes, whatever. Yep. I 100% sure.
Power by 2050. Well, that's not a very good statistic to think about.
Most people think when nuclear power plant is running that you're somehow getting energy from the atom directly. No. What you're doing is splitting the atom, as it were, creating a lot of heat that boils water, heats water, it turns a steam engine, like a choo-choo train in 1849 coming out to the gold rush in California. That's all a nuclear power plant is, except they're stuck with 1 million years of waste. And this
So super important to listen to what he just said there. When we're doing nuclear power, we're like just using that to heat water to produce like, was it steam or whatever? But basically there's this whole process. It's like, it's so inefficient. Isn't it more efficient just to extract the energy right away and then just turn it into usable electrical energy? Like we have this whole process and then we have all this nuclear waste. Like it's all methods are currently obsolete compared to extracting 0-point energy.
This is the other problem. The distribution of the power from the point that you have the primary source, by the time you generate it, transmit it through the inefficient transmission lines, and then you're wiring in your device or your home, you've lost at least 66%. So 66% of the energy is completely wasted. So here's your energy grid. 12% is a new renewable. The rest is the old system. So if you plug in your electric car, 88% of the power is coming from gas and oil and coal.
Wow.
The entire world is running on an energy paradigm of scarcity, meaning that there's never more energy than we generate, and we lose.
How embarrassing is we have all that solar and it's only 12% of all the energy. That's just embarrassing.
That energy as we move it around and deploy it in different ways. And so energy is expensive, and energy is difficult to get to remote areas. And the energy is important because it's inputs in growing food, and it's inputs in manufacturing, and it's inputs in the economy, and it's inputs in all of these things that make people's lives better and that solve the problems that desperately need to be solved on the planet right now. Over unity is a very simple idea. It's that you're getting more energy out of something than you're putting into it. And
he said the word, chat. Who is this guy? He just said it. It's time, chat. Non-equilibrium system over unity.
And according to mainstream science, that's impossible.
What free energy devices suggest is that there is a limitless supply of usable energy that's always coming into reality, and that we're not living in a universe of fundamental scarcity.
So over unity is more than just a breakthrough that's going to live its life in a technical paper. It's not that. It's really the ability of humans to liberate themselves.
Yes, there is a history, a long history of over unity systems. For example, Nikola Tesla had one. Basically, his big magnifying transformer that he had on Long Island was such an over unity system.
Chad, our hero, Thomas Bearden.
He got the entire Earth itself in resonance. Everything going on is feeding energy into the Earth, starts to feed energy into that wave that he created. So he gets a lot more energy in his...
Thomas Bearden is literally my hero. He's my Tesla, guys. Thomas Bearden is my Tesla. I'm going to get Thomas Bearden's name tattooed on my face.
resonant wave fed from outside, from the environment in the interior of the Earth. His idea was you could then put in a cap on it anywhere else on the world and extract it free. And of course, J.P. Morgan's take on that was, that's foolish. You can't put a meter on it. So that.
I wanted to pause it on JP Morgan's face. Couldn't put a meter on. JP Morgan fucked us, chat. Heavy side and JP Morgan fucked us.
Actually doomed much of Tesla's career at that point when Morgan found out that Tesla was going to produce the energy freely.
But I love this quote. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Now, the reason he said that is that when you use what's called a very high voltage system, you can tap in to what Professor Casimir called the 0-point energy field. Some people call it the quantum vacuum. Other people, like Professor Dirac, modestly called it the Dirac Sea. And we just tested a device last month in the Arizona desert, you'll see in a moment, that is based on that.
Nobody is really trying to get, for example, over unity, more energy out of something than you put in, because it's assumed that that is impossible. Well, that might be.
That's the problem, right? Everyone just assumes it's impossible, so no one tries. This is how easy it is to suppress the science, guys. People just think it's not possible, so they don't even fucking try. I'm going to get Thomas Bearden's whole face tattooed on the side of my face.
Impossible, but only if you don't really understand the fabric of reality itself.
They just can't believe it, especially engineers, because I know how we were taught, right? There is no vacuum energy. You're just a kook when you think so, right? If they took a little more physics, they would go, well, maybe.
See, they messed up because they tell people there's no vacuum energy, but we know there's virtual particles and that there's this, latent energy that we can see it in the Casimir force. So we know there's energy there, but since they teach you that it doesn't exist, everybody's just a fucking idiot. This is the part that makes me wonder whether or not like 50% or more of people out there are just literally NPCs, like literally non-player characters. They're just going through the motions, never really conscious. It truly makes me wonder.
It's not a small thing. It's not a matter of finding proof for some technology, for some invention, and convincing everybody of it. You can't convince somebody of something that so totally contradicts their basic assumptions about the universe.
But what if there's a pool of energy available to us that we didn't even think was possible because we're operating on these 100-plus-year-old assumptions? We can't find this excess energy simply because no one's looking for it.
So-called empty space isn't really empty at all. It's actually full of energy. So instead of being like kind of a quiet, empty lake, it's more like the froth at the base of a waterfall or something.
Remember when we quoted that literally exact same thing that Hal Puthoff just said? Guys, how many times do I have to say it? Hal Puthoff knows, man. Hal Puthoff knows 100%, guys. There's enough energy in this martini glass to vaporize all the world's oceans. All the world's oceans. Think about how much that is, guys. This is like when people say, well, is it going to be safe to extract the energy? Guys, you're extracting little teaspoons out of an ocean of water. That's how much energy is out there.
Well, when you go to look at the numbers, you find out that there's enough energy in the volume of a coffee cup to evaporate all the world's oceans if you could get it all of it.
And here we have a car from 1921 running without a plug. Now look at this old car. And it was pulling energy out of the environment. They couldn't quantify what, but they had the correct frequency. And this had a battery and some wiring. And it was running around without being plugged in. Memo to Tesla Motors, go and research this. Get rid of your plugins. And this is one of my favorite. 1902, a farmer and engineer named Stubblefield with Tesla, he had something they called the Earth battery, or the Stubblefield battery, and it had rods going into the Earth and some wiring, and it was picking up this magnetic flux field of the planet, and he was running his farm.
Chat, what if I told you that Hal Puthoff knows who I am? What if I told you that, chat? Would that get you excited? I'm not saying I do, but what if I did?
Tesla was there with him, 1902. So when I say 100 years, lost century, no.
I do not wish to talk about it myself, but I've been a victim of quite a bit of suppression. So has any other legitimate researcher in this area.
The government's protecting the industry, the oil industry, because they're in bed together. Tremendous amounts of contributions for politicians come from these huge companies. And these huge companies have been covering up for years what we're doing to the planet.
Today, we don't have so much big kingdoms. We have cartels. We have a whole set of cartels in an area, interlocking corporations. And behind this, we have a few people who are quite wealthy and who own most things. Anytime we have a very powerful cartel or set of people that control a lot of things, that resists any means of changing its inflow of control and its inflow of.
Guys, Dr. Greer knows how important Thomas Bearden is. The reason why Thomas Bearden is doing like the narration right here is like Dr. Greer knows this guy's fucking legit. Thomas Bearden might be the Nikola Tesla of like the last 40 years. Like there's nobody up there like Thomas Bearden was. Like this is, and I've talked to the sources, not the ones that talk about ships being sunk, but my sources that are on the inside. Like this, Thomas Bearden is the fucking man.
Funds and money and its power. You know, everybody's trying to be the big monkey. It's really as simple as that.
Here we have all the methods. Some of these are common sense, but every one of these are ones I have encountered and investigated personally with geniuses.
Yeah, Thomas Bearden passed away in 2022. I wish I had met him. It's actually a little weird. I had somebody telling me that, like, I'm going to say indirectly told me, like, it feels like Thomas Bearden's spirit is in you, which almost brought me to tears just to think about the idea.
Engineering geniuses and physics geniuses, but strategically impaired inventors. Black shelving. So someone comes along, they offer you $20 million for your device. It's a corporation. They put it on a shelf. Boom. National security orders. We're going to.
So he just said the Fallout plot, right? That what if like I try to do this and then somebody comes and says, here's your Scarlett Johansson clone. Here's $20 million. Stop doing what you're doing. Like that's one of the ways they shut people down. Or they go, take the $20 million or we'll fucking kill you. It's like, well, okay. Not much of a choice then.
Show you one from a man we just met with. Patent seizures, financial entanglements from investors because they're doing their whole business and legal strategy wrong. Legal entanglements where they end up in court. Threats to the individuals. I had a guy under contract building one. All you had to do is have some thugs come in and say, you, your wife, you're dead. You stop this.
So look at all those listens. Like, look at all those ways that they can silence you. Like, this is the thing, too, where, like, guys, like, this is why there's no guarantee with this. Look at this legal stuff, threatening you, financial entanglements, credible threats to the individual. Like, we got a road ahead of us here, Chad. There's no guarantee on this.
And he stopped. And then scientific fraud.
The more powerful the agency, the more powerful the group, the more powerful the cartel, the more they will resort not only to legal means, but to extra legal means to suppress their competition.
Extra legal means, Chad. I think you all know what he's talking about. Extra legal means the CIA will resort to. We all know.
For example, the greatest espionage in the world is industrial espionage between one corporation and another right here in America.
Chad, give me the Scarlet bot and it's all over, chat. It's all over. I don't want my Tiffany Gomez clone anymore. As Mavericks beat the Timberwolves. I just want I'm over my Gomez clone. Now I just want the Scarlet clone.
They're the ones that hire all the spies and the spooky equipment and everything like that by far more than the intel agents do. And it's not one cartel. So there are many, many groups in energy. And each of those has become very powerful in its own area. And each one does not wish to see simple little electrical taps pulling out enormous energy from the vacuum. They would much rather see you burning a lot more oil and so forth.
So there's something nefarious afoot. It kind of makes sense from I'm threatening oil monopoly and things like that. Okay, so I said pretty early on.
So yeah, real quick, I want to point out this is why you can't open source it. If you open source this, you just get fucking killed. I'm just going to say it as simply as I can. People are like, open source it. No, you get fucking killed if you try to open source this. And then your device just disappears and that's it. Like the way that I'm trying to do it, I think is the only way that you can do it. I know other people want to do it other ways, but like you've got to like go public with it slowly and slowly roll it out to people. You try to push this too hard, they're going to fucking kill you. Simple as that.
The problem is suppression. It wasn't really how do I make a free energy machine. It's how do I not get suppressed? Because what's the point? If you make it, you're just going to get clobbered.
And then you have a really big one, media corruption. Or why doesn't everyone in the world?
Yes, media corruption. Guys, we saw the media corruption yesterday. Within 30 minutes of me making a post that had any type of dubious source, they had already written a 5-page article about me. A 5-page fucking article in 30 minutes. Media corruption. Like the target is painted on my back, and now I'm 1,000% sure I'm going to be super careful about everything I put out there from this point going forward. Got to be very careful. Media corruption is the one I'm most afraid of.
World know these things have existed because, as you'll see in a little bit, the media at a certain high level have operatives from the intelligence community who kill stories on demand. And then the worst, of course, when it works.
Chad, I posted the Q thruster thing. By the way, I don't know this for a fact. I haven't been told this by any sources, but I'm sure the Q thruster just lost contact with the satellite that was supposed to test it. Yeah, that's pretty damn convenient, especially because the Q thruster would have proven that the ether is real, and it would have proven that warp drive is possible and that wormholes are possible. Just magically, they just lost after 2 months. Well, we never got to test it. Whoops. Oops, what did I just do?
It's not totally mafia type stuff. It's not like, you just flat get shot. There's some of that.
The typical threat to the family, right? Just typical mafia, right? It's not just watch The Godfather, see how they work, right?
There's an interesting record of people that have come up with new alternatives to the oil and gas industry who have met untimely demises. I don't know if you'd say that's true in terms of Nikola Tesla specifically, but he was hit by a taxi cab back in the early 1930s and didn't die immediately, but then died alone in a hospital room a few years later.
When they found out that Tesla had passed away in the Hotel New Yorker, they came in, they had the manager of the hotel.
Dude, this guy's hair means business right now. Look at this. This is definitely the 80s. You do not rock hair like this in the 90s. This is the 80s, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Opened the safe, and they took all of Tesla's papers.
So here you have an actual FBI document, and the Department of Defense is demanding they turn over what they seized in 1943. Now, this used to be an urban myth. Oh, well, he had these secret inventions and papers, and the government stole it. No, it's right here.
That technology and what was in those boxes, what was written in those papers,
Man's
we do not
forehead's-
know, and we may not ever know.
This dude's forehead's doing some work right now.
So they go in, the FBI takes it. Here, the Department of Defense, years later, is saying, we want all those papers that you confiscated in
Guys, I'm sorry for the volume. I can't turn it up any more than this, so turn it up if you have to. This is the most it goes. It doesn't go any higher. I tried.
1943 upon Nikola Tesla's death. And then you have just flat out patent confiscation through national security orders. Look at this. This is 12 years ago. 5,135 inventions seized under national security orders. In 1971 list includes patents for solar photovoltaic that were subject to restriction because they were more than 20% efficient. The most efficient solar panel you can get right now in 2022 is 22.8%. These were way past that. And how many years was that?
Chad, solar panels are only 20% efficient. 20%? That's it? Solar panels are basically just a fucking scam, chat. These are just a scam.
51 years ago. Okay, we're not talking about an extraterrestrial spacecraft or anti-gravity or gravity control. We're talking about just a super efficient solar panel. Those are confiscated. This is one of my favorite statements of this report. One may fairly ask if disclosure of such technologies could really have been detrimental to the national security or whether the opposite would be closer to the truth.
Yeah,
They dropped to 1 to 3%. Yeah, solar panels are 1,000% scam. Holy crap, that is super scam.
hear the words vital interests of national security. Well, what we're really talking about there in terms of Iraq, for example, in the early 2000s, which was all trumped up. There were no weapons of mass destruction. That's what was being touted by the media, Sir Judith Miller at the New York Times and others, to justify what we were doing to get rid of Saddam Hussein. But in fact, the only national security implication of that was the oil industries, what they get from it.
But again, what does national security mean here? Oil, gas, petrodollar, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase. That's the national security in the abused, corrupt system.
Chat, I'm not gonna lie, just by watching this, all you motherfuckers in chat are on a list. Like, this is the elites do not want people watching this video for sure, man. When you start naming JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs, like, you're getting on a list, chat. All you motherfuckers in the chat right now are on the list.
It's a policy that the military seems to feel is necessary for national security. However, at this point, we often wonder 50 years after World War II and the Cold War, whether such sequestering is necessary, especially when fossil fuels are a major cause of global warming.
So here we have a man. He was fired, Dr. Tom Vallone, he's a PhD physicist. He was a patent examiner, and he saw these amazing technologies being confiscated. This is not a conspiracy theory. And he blew the whistle. They fired him. Because he saw things that would save the planet. Now, this was way back in the 80s or 90s.
Patent sequestering, which is actually called secretizing, the public needs to know at least that every major military agency has a representative at the patent office.
Patent office in its current approach is actually breaking the law. It's trying to make happy the physicists who are with American Physical Society to keep them in power with their ideas, you might say, and withhold from public use good inventions that could solve our problems, like the energy crisis.
Boeing had just finished some work on some propulsion system. Boeing had done it for the Air Force, and they finished the job. And then they applied to their customer at the Air Force for permission to use it on Boeing's commercial airlines, and they were denied. An example of the ongoing suppression of things that seem to be innocuous and a slight improvement in technology.
So, T. Henry Moray had a device, no input energy once he got it set up, output 50 kilowatts. He had multiple assassination attempts and finally was bankrupted in his lab. This was the 1930s.
There is absolutely no question that T. Henry Moray had a system that produced about 50 kilowatts out of a 55-pound box. There's all kinds of skullduggery that happened there. The Russians even tried to kidnap him at one time. It reads like a James Bond movie, but it's real. It really happened, and it really happened here in the United States.
Here's a friend of mine. He was a Wright-Patterson Project Blue Book guy. But when he retired, he built a device that you could put on the air intake of a car. This is in the 80s, where you would get anywhere from 20 to 40% more range, miles per gallon.
This sounds exactly like the thunderstorm generator, Chad. I'm going to ask Malcolm Bendel about this.
On convention.
For the record, I am in contact with Malcolm Bendel. Basically, like all the coolest fucking people, like I have them on my fucking speed dial, by the way.
I treat air, and out of air, I make it more than just providing oxygen for the combustion process.
I think he's literally describing Malcolm Bendel's work right here. I would bet almost anything. Who is this guy again?
Combustion stimulating molecules and radicals generated in this process. Thunderstorm in a bottle.
Okay, now I'm he just said thunderstorm. He literally just said thunderstorm. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Brown invented technology to reduce vehicle. Yeah, okay. He's talking about thunderstorm generator. 100%. I bet you anything Malcolm Bendel knows this guy, Charles Brown. Anything. Wow is right, Arwen. Wow is right. And thunderstorm generator is not the entity I signed the NDA with. That is slightly different. That's why, again, I think there's more than one way to skin this cat. The one that I signed with was for all the reasons that I already mentioned. I just think it's probably one of the cheaper ones to produce. It's already manufactured. People have already bought it. It's already proven to work. When I saw it and was explained it as well after I signed the NDA, like I was like, this is it. This is the one.
He had his lab vandalized, everything stolen, bomb threats, etc. This is a colonel who put his entire life savings into something in the 80s that would have been a game changer. But it wasn't a free energy device. It wasn't something just running out of the 0 point. It would have just gotten more efficiency and cleaned up the air.
Environmental Protection Agency is a bit of a dictatorial police agency. They call themselves a protected agency, but they are a police agency. EPA cannot approve a fuel-saving device. They put out reams of documentation stating that something will not work.
This gentleman.
Guys, one last thing I'll say is people ask, like, who is the entity? They want to know all the info about it. You will find out. I can't say more about it. I think that everything will be revealed and it'll begin to make sense when it's happened. But it was a collaboration, let's say, on it, back and forth. But they probably, you could technically argue they reached out to me first, but I don't know if it matters too much. So anyway, I can't say any more on it. I just don't want to give anything away regarding it.
Actually took a device from a Russian immigrant and another and kind of packaged it. He didn't actually understand it that much. And you had 26, almost 27.
The name of this documentary is The Lost Century by Dr. Stephen Greer. This is the part where it's like, guys, Dr. Greer's work is legit, but like, I don't really agree with the whole Ambassador Bijou and like, it just weirds me out that he went in this direction of like CE5 and all this alien stuff. And he claims to know that the aliens must be benevolent because they haven't destroyed us yet. And I'm like, that's kind of a leap in logic, like there's a lot of reasons like prison planet situation where they might not be benevolent. And so I just don't know. Like if he just focused on the energy, if Dr. Greer just focused on technology and tried to learn the technology for himself, I think he would have achieved all his goals. And that's like how I look at it. And that's where I split from Dr. Greer. But I think for sure his sources are the best in the biz.
And watts going in, 7,460 watts going out, and tested and verified by multiple labs.
Yeah, I'll post a link after the stream to this in the YouTube channel.
Gray started developing this idea 8 years ago. For the past year and a half, he's been trying to get someone in the U.S. government interested. So far, he's had little luck. Gray says he's been getting the same reaction he got 30 years ago when he first proposed his theory. Get this guy out of here, he is crazy. But Gray says it's paranoia. The scientific community isn't willing to accept.
pretty funny, right? Like a lot of the same trolls that I get, oh, he's paranoid, he's insane, blah, 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 he's scamming people. They were saying all the same stuff. They say the same stuff about everyone. Again, this is why I think that most people in the world are just NPCs. It's like, oh, if CNN didn't tell me it's fake, like a lot of people do not know how this world works at all. Like they just have no idea how the real world works. They're living in a fictional manifest of how the real world works in their mind, you know, and that's how all this stuff has been suppressed. I think somebody asked me something, but I can't find it. Anyway, here we go.
Except teaching opposite all previous learning. And the military aerospace industry is afraid to admit decades and billions of dollars worth of research have been wasted.
Now, unfortunately, this disappeared because he actually took the ideas from some geniuses and was trying to make a lot of money. And so his became, I'm calling this.
Okay, well, last thing I'll say, so the NDA is only specific to the one device. The entity that I signed the NDA with is not trying to silence me, although I was absolutely, of course, concerned about that. I read the NDA. It's only related to the device. It doesn't stop me from talking about anything else. I'm not going to be silenced in any way. The entity I spoke with does not want me to be silenced on the work that I'm doing as well. They actually approve of the work. So it was all good faith. There's no sketchy shit happening. It's not, and also I've said it's not the government that told me to sign the NDA. So we don't have any Scarlett Johansson clones hiding over there in the hallway or whatever.
Crazy inventor syndrome. It's not very nice, but I mean, it's kind of crazy. And here's why.
I wish I did, though.
It's crazy. They think I have the best thing since sliced bread, and the world's going to be a path to my door. And they don't realize they're going to have corrupt interest.
And it does not prevent me from talking to anybody. The NDA, the only thing the NDA does is prevent me from talking about exactly how the specific device works. That's it. So that's all you guys have to worry about.
From the national security state, corporations, and all kinds of other people stop them. So they think they're going to do a normal investment and normal venture capital and patent it or keep the secret sauce of how it works away from everyone. And in every single case for 100 plus years, they've taken that knowledge to their grave.
You've seen The Paranoid Inventor, plenty of stories on those guys. It's my precious.
Precious.
I can't share my secret. Everybody will take it from me, right? That this paranoid, I have it. This is worth gazillions of dollars and everything else. And they're so naive, they have no idea. At first, they think they're the first, right? Have no idea the history of this and what happens to the others.
So having done that for
that's great, because what I will say, guys, is that the entity that I signed the NDA with, they do know of the history of it. They know all of this history. So things are just not as simple as people think with respect to like, oh, just do what Dr. Greer says. Yeah, I'm sure he's going to say, just open source it, guys. I wish it was that simple, man. I think I've explained to you the economic situation regarding it. The true answer, I don't know what Dr. Greer is going to say here. I've never watched this yet, but people are already selling them, and there's more than one person selling them. And the profit margins are amazing because, you know, you can sell it for whatever price you want. So the entity that reached out to me wants to get the information out there. And they're potentially losing out on their own profit margins by doing this and risking their intellectual property getting out there as well, which is undoubtedly what's going to happen. But it goes to show the good faith that some people do want to get it out there.
31 years now, I have been dealing with people with these devices since 1991. Almost all of them fall into some part of this syndrome, and it's a tragedy. You'll see the device, I'll have engineers come in and test it. They go, oh no, I'm going to keep it secret. Nobody can know but me. And I need to make a bunch of money. They want to be the next Rockefeller of energy. And the next thing you know, they're dead, or the device is confiscated, or it vanishes in a buyout. So this guy had the same problem. He had a device, they have it there, still running. But they think that no one can know this but them. They're buying it.
Chad, if all of a sudden I'm streaming and there's just a blonde Scarlett Johansson lookalike right next to me, you will know that I've been bought out by the government. You will know.
To the paranoia. My answer is open source it, dump it on the internet, blockchain, or any way you can. You have no patent, no intellectual property. The whole world knows about it, and every scientific lab in the world can reproduce it. We're going to get to this strategy in a minute. That's how we got to do that.
Okay, I'm going to point out why this is wrong. I like Dr. Greer's approach. I like his thought process. This literally is what LK99 did. LK99 said, here's the scientific paper. Everybody can reproduce it. Here you go. Go reproduce it. What happened? What happened, chat? Everybody reproduced it, and they all said that it didn't work. They reproduced it incorrectly. It was sabotaged. And all it took was one person to say that it didn't work. And then every single fake news science influencer on Twitter was spamming that it doesn't work. And then every single social media account spammed that it doesn't work. LK99 is real, and the whole world thinks it's fake. So the answer is, if you try to open source it, they 100% will do a fake replication and say that it doesn't work, and they'll use all their social media apparatus to claim that it was a scam. If we were to open source this device and say, here's how it works, people will fail to reproduce it. They will fail to do it wrong. It will be sabotaged, and they will use the disinformation to claim that the entity that I signed with and myself are scam artists and that it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. That's exactly how it'll play out, and that's exactly why I'm not open sourcing it. So there you go. That's the answer.
Because the very definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's attributed to Einstein. But how true is that here? So we have to change our strategy.
Many of these inventors are really good at the technical stuff, but they're not great communicators.
This power.
Okay, that was really big. He says they're great at the technical stuff, but they're not great communicators. Again, guys, I tell you guys as much as I can possibly tell you all the time without revealing my sources, without breaking my NDA. And this is the reason why these engineers are talking to me. This is the reason why Salvatore Pius is talking to me. This is the reason my buddy Dave Rossi was talking to me, Bob Greer, is because I'm a good communicator. Bob Greer sends me a message like every week being like, hey, can you promote my other content, or you're doing a great job on this, because I'm a great communicator. I break it down for the layman. I break it down for people that can just understand it, that are common people, because I'm a common person. That's my talent, if anything, is that breaking it down for people. This is why these people struggle. And this is why I have to be very careful about the content that I push, because they know I'm a good communicator. And this is why they're attacking me. This is why they had the 5-page disinformation article ready to go the very moment I tweeted anything that they could attack. And not to evoke political drama, but this is what they do to people like Elon Musk. This is what they do to people who are influential, like Andrew Tate and the Tate brothers. Anybody who's influential, who's a good communicator, they try to discredit you. And they're going to 100% try to discredit me as well, because I'm a good communicator and because I can take the science and explain it to people. But this is also why those engineers want to reach out to me. They say, why would they reach out to you, Ashton? Well, because I have 140,000 followers, and those followers, I can break down the concepts to them in a very understandable way. And that people will go, this guy's not a liar. He's just being honest, because I am all the time. That's a skill set. That's a value.
It's something I've given my life for you, the people. Now, set up this demonstration for y'all. You don't have to be a rocket scientist.
Talk real good.
They're not good at business. They're not like
exactly this. They're not good at business. So I'll tell you guys one more thing real quick as well. I spoke to the entity that I signed the NDA with, and they didn't know. I told them, hey, I'm a business major. I've majored in marketing, finance, international business. They didn't even know that. I told them that recently, a couple of weeks ago, and they were like, holy shit, that's awesome, because like that's what they're looking for. They're the engineer. They do not, they're the engineer. They have this whole business model, or, this manufacturing process set up. They want somebody that can commercialize it, somebody that can come in, explain to people how it works, prove to people how it works. They can explain it in common sense terms, because the people that can do this manufacturing, they're, socially awkward generally. And this entity even said that, like the people in behind the scenes that know, they're all socially awkward as shit, which makes sense, right? They're engineers. They're super smart, brainy people. And I'm like the person in the middle that can kind of help explain it. That's the reason why they see value in me. So there you guys go.
God can make technical geniuses and he can make business savvy people, but rarely do the two come together in one person.
This story is fascinating because he had a tiny, 17 watts, it's like a 20-watt light bulb. It was putting out 200 watts, 10 to 15 times more output than input. This is in the 80s. This is 40 years ago.
I was not convinced.
Chat, Mike Obama is going to be my VP.
Probably on the first 3 times that I saw the device and saw it tested, that
who's that?
That indeed it put out more energy than it took in. I am convinced now. I was a little bit prejudiced, and like all people that come up with devices like this, you think they're wrong.
This is a man who's not, I can just look in this man's eyes I can tell instantaneously because I'm a poker player. This man is not lying. This man didn't think that over unity was real, and he saw it, and he was turned. I can tell just like that.
And so you go down to prove him wrong if you're that interested. And I was not able to prove him wrong, nor were the people that I was with able to prove him wrong.
And here's what happened.
Can
He
someone
kept the whole thing
can someone give me a clip of that? I want a clip of that guy saying that. That was one of the most honest statements I've ever heard somebody say. Like that was somebody whose mind has literally been blown.
so secret. It was going through a patenting process, but even the patent application left out a lot of the secret sauce. Most of these inventors do this. Fatal mistake. And
my number one concern is China figuring out how the over unity device works and then copying it and then kicking me out of the market. That's actually my number one, as a business major, that's my number one concern going forward. That's why we're probably going to be vetting people who want to buy it, because I'm 1,000% sure we'll have Chinese spies trying to figure out how it works. And then they're going to have their own, like right now they have their own electric cars that are just destroying Tesla cars. That's exactly what's going to happen.
what happened is that it was all covered up, that he actually was taken to court. The patent office said, even though we had proof that it worked from multiple very esteemed scientists, patent examiners, that proved
Chat, he doesn't know who Mike Obama is. Someone let him know.
that the thing actually did as he said it did, and he got nowhere. He took this to his grave. Look at this video that you're going to see in a moment.
Mr. Newman has been fighting for a patent for years. Many, therefore, considered it ironic when a federal judge appointed the former head of the patent office.
Now, open source doesn't protect anything. The way the open source work, they'll kill you off so that you can't talk anymore, and then they'll discredit the invention, and then that's it. It'll just go away. Like sadly, like that's already happened several times. So I'm sure it will not work. You just let it be stolen, and then it gets out there anyway, and it works the same way as open source.
William Schuyler to decide if Newman's device did or did not work. Mr. Schuyler, who is also considered to be an expert on electrical engineering, didn't take long to make his decision. In a report of the special master, Mr. Schuyler states, evidence before the court is overwhelming that Newman has built and tested a prototype of his invention in which the output energy exceeds the external input energy. Therefore, there is no contradictory factual evidence. For the layman, that means the machine works. The expert then goes on to say, the patent office finding that such a machine is impossible is clearly erroneous. Mr. Schuyler also found that the patent office intentionally did not consider the formalities of Mr. Newman's application for a patent. Why wouldn't you go along, again, with a master that's former head of the patent office, who has credentials that the judge called outstanding? Why wouldn't you go along with the man that you recommended in granting a patent?
You ask mean questions, don't you? I think you'd have to address that question to our present commissioner.
Are you acting on his orders?
You might say that, yes.
There you go.
Operability or utility is a rejection that virtually none of the patent examiners, and there's almost 5,000 of us, were allowed to use in any of our applications. The supervisor particularly always said that, oh, that's something only if you're dealing with energy inventions. So what we find is that throughout the patent office, that rejection for something that we personally would feel would not be operable was not a judgment we were allowed to make, except if we're in that security department that deals with energy and propulsion types of inventions.
Here we have a brilliant device.
But here's Floyd's suite, which I believe this device worked as well. So like I'm actually learning right now because I want to figure out, I actually forgot to ask if it's been patented, the device that I have the NDA with, because that big concern is that they won't let you patent it. And that if you do try to patent it, then they'll hide it. So this is where you get stuck in this whole thing.
Again, almost 40 years ago, look at the input and output. Test it over and over again, 0.3 milliwatts. Output 223,000 watts. That's 22.4 kilowatts. That's plenty to run your car, your Tesla motor. Now, continuously output if needed on demand. So this little thing that looks like a cigarette pack, when he died under mysterious, they said a heart attack, it's all kinds of evidence he was killed.
This is real usable power. It's stable. It is not transient. It is not noise. And it is not any other kind of spurious effect.
So chat, remember when I clipped this exact piece as you, how crazy it is? Like, I think there's already been like 5 different videos that Dr. Greer used in this documentary that I've posted on my Twitter account already. This is why the engineers are talking to me. Like I am over the target as you could possibly be.
This is a real effect. It's all coming from that little tiny box sitting behind the 500 watts of power. Behind the lamps. That
This is you guys are staring at. So the people say like, oh, just film it. It's already been filmed. This was 1987. They already filmed this in 1987. You're looking at it. So I'm literally planning on just doing the exact same thing you're seeing right here. We're going to reproduce this with the entity that I signed the NDA with, and we're going to show something like this, but scaled up to 2024, where I'm like charging my phone off of it, and I'm texting you guys and filming it while my phone's charging off the device. That's what I plan on doing.
A little box is putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power. This is April 30th, 1987, at about 10:30 p.m. in the home of Mr. Sparky Sweet, the inventor of the very first
1987.
cloud. This is a most historical occasion.
I was altered when I saw it because my view was that you could be anywhere then in the universe. You could be in a cave, you could be anywhere, and you had energy. This was overwhelming to think that I could have energy and the whole world could have energy. That all of a sudden we were on an equality economically. We didn't have to worry about the energy sources.
The rest of that power is coming out of the surging energy of the vacuum. And this little box that you see right here, solid state, no moving parts, is the vacuum triode that's doing this very practical and historical work. He was shot at once with a silenced rifle from about 300 yards. The only thing that saved his life was he was an old guy and very feeble. He was stumbling as he coming up the steps and he fell down. He just fell down on the steps, caught his foot and fell right forward. And as his head went forward, the bullet went right by where his head was. And of course, the assassin was never found.
This guy called me up. He said, we really need your help. And I said, the only way you're going to do this is that you disclose it.
Chat, my life expectancy is not looking great.
All of it. Open source it. Get it out there. I will see that we get it out to the entire scientific community. He says, no. My precious. And I said, dude, you're going to take this to your grave. He took it to his grave. Yep, it's gone.
This very distraught lady, who's Sparky's wife, she's saying Sparky's dead. And that she said 2 strange men, she called them strange men, showed up at about 5 o'clock the night before. And they stayed for a little while and then they left.
Chat, I have the best guard dog. If any assassins try to get in here, they're going to get their shit bit out of them. Lulu does not play around. If you guys have seen me try to pick up Lulu, you know she does not play. Lulu don't play, chat. Any assassins try to come in here, FYI, she's going to bite the shit out of you. 1,000%. So just be prepared.
And Sparky, an hour or two later, having a cup of coffee and just killed over onto the floor, called the ambulance, and she was 75 years old. They would not let her in the ambulance. And the ambulance then called her back about 20 minutes later and said, we don't think he's going to make it. And that was the end of that until the next morning when she called my sister-in-law and talked to her and said, there are men here that said they're FBI and they got black vans and they're taking all this equipment. What should I do?
Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of Eyewitness Newsmakers. I'm your host, Doug Miller. On March the 23rd, chemists Stanley Pons and Martin Fleischmann rocked the world of science. They announced that they had achieved cold fusion.
Martin Fleischmann, this is Bob Greenier's namesake.
In their laboratory at the University of Utah. The promise of a cheap and a plentiful energy supply grabbed the world's attention.
It didn't put out a lot of power, but what was scary is that this is 1989. It made the cover of all the magazines. The way they took that avenue of discovery out of the scientific world is that there were people who were paid, who were corrupted through scientific fraud at MIT. Next slide. Dr. Eugene Maloff, dear friend of mine, PhD, Harvard and MIT, brilliant man.
There was a man named Eugene Maloff who it's quite possible was eliminated by the powers that be in the fossil fuel industry.
I did my math really quickly there with my fucking, Rain Man brain. I think he was only 57 years old.
He died in 2004. He was murdered that year. But Maloff was an extremely important figure in the alternative energy world, especially in terms of what's called cold fusion.
And he was at MIT in the science office for education when he saw how they had changed the data.
No, 57, I was right.
Reproducing the Pons-Fleischmann experiment. And he blew the whistle.
I inadvertently was looking through some piles of paper that had been given to me in a casual manner by all these hot fusion physicists as they were trying to do their
calorimetric repeat of the Pons-Fleischmann experiment. And to my utter astonishment, I can remember sitting at my desk in my study and actually seeing these two sheets of paper, one dated July 10th, 1989, and another dated July 13th, 3 days apart. The difference between July 10th and 13th was dramatic. And I was stunned. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It looked like monkey business to me at the time, and it has turned out to be exactly that. It was a lower echelon person in the Plasma Fusion Center at MIT.
One thing I want to say, the cold fusion stuff, I'm going to say I'm 100% sure at this point that it's also just another source of overunity. They're also pulling energy from the vacuum. I think the whole idea of cold fusion is directly linked to the idea of pulling energy from the vacuum. I would even argue that the sun and other stars are a mechanism by which you can pull energy from the vacuum at very large scales. And that's why we see the sun that's able to be this stable device that's producing huge amounts of energy without exploding or going out even over billions of years.
16 authors of a scientific paper done under Department of Energy contract that had altered data. And that data is scientific fraud as far as I'm concerned, and many other people are concerned.
And it was, it was hell on wheels. Finally get someone who brings him a 0-point device, solid state, no moving parts. And I said, Gene, we need to get this out to the public very quickly. Oh no, they want to keep it secret. I begged him and I begged him and I begged him and I begged him. He was beaten to death when he was over at his parents' home and was killed, murdered.
Beaten to death.
Made to look like some thugs. They were thugs, but it wasn't a random murder. And the device vanished with him. Good friend of mine, dear friend.
What we really had was a threat to the scientific establishment. The threat of it even being implied.
Chat, my life expectancy keeps going down, but once you've disclosed superconductive harmonic orbs and MH370, the biggest conspiracy of all time, you just don't really give a shit anymore about free energy and potentially your life expectancy going down anymore. So, we're just all in on this shit. No breaks, baby.
As real and having monies, shall we say, being diverted from their favored programs. And that was a threat. No question. It was an actual threat of that happening.
U.S. scientists making a huge breakthrough. A source tells CNN that for the first time ever, researchers have been able to create energy from a fusion reaction. Now, Laura, I could explain all of this in great detail, of course. But basically, it's a giant step towards a clean energy future without dependence on fossil fuels.
Which is the first time, by all accounts, they've gotten more heat out than they put in.
Not so fast. This supposed breakthrough.
I just saw Bill Nye the Science Guy. Guarantee you they're about to debunk this shit. Guys, there's a fucking link between Mick West, Bill Nye the Science Guy, and Neil deGrasse Tyson. They're all on the boards of the Skeptical Inquirer Fellows, where they get paid to debunk real things. This is not a coincidence. This is not a coincidence. These people are fucking frauds, and their job is to debunk real shit through some pseudoscience. This is not possible because CNN didn't say so. Tee-hee-hee. Bill Nye the Science Guy is a fucking fraud. Neil deGrasse Tyson is a fraud. Mick West is a fucking fraud. Take me to court. I will destroy you.
Announced just as we were finishing this film is a total distraction. The net gain, 0.1 kilowatt, is enough to boil a kettle of water and not much else. But what is truly baffling is that they are not counting the actual input required to power the lasers to get the machine going. When you count the energy it took to generate the fusion reaction, it's actually a 1,200 times net loss. Furthermore, fusion reactions can generate heat in excess of 3 million degrees, which would ignite the oxygen in the surrounding air if a breach ever occurred. Everything about this is, at best, wrong, at worst, fraudulent. So why is this fake solution being pushed by every media outlet on the planet?
There he is, chat. There he is. I just literally evoked this fucking fraud. Boom. Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Mick West. This is not a coincidence that the three biggest frauds on the planet are all part of the Skeptical Inquirer. At this point, I'm pretty sure the government is secretly funneling money to this company, and then they use them as a non-for-profit, and this is how you can basically, because this is how the intelligence community works. They don't pay you directly. They use intermediaries so the money can't be tracked. These are TV influencers and scientists. If they put you on TV, you are full of shit. I have been disclosing the biggest information in the history of the world, and no TV outlets try to put me on, even though I've done over 80 podcasts, and clearly I'm well-spoken, It's because they can't handle somebody who's telling the truth. They want fake people who are putting fake information out there. They're going to read off a script. Look at this motherfucker's face. Look at this motherfucker's face right now. This is the face of a piece of shit liar.
When we have had real solutions hidden in classified programs for 100 years.
Different people have different devices. Of the ones that have promise, there's certain themes that keep reemerging. The first theme is
Well, once again, this is the reason why open sourcing it won't work, because what they're going to do is they're going to activate all their disinformation agents. They're going to activate Neil deGrasse Tyson and Bill Nye the Science Guy. They're going to put them on every single cable news station, and they're going to go, there's a man named Ashton Forbes on the internet saying that you can produce over Unity. Well, this over Unity is impossible. He's a fraudster. He's scamming you. This is exactly what they'll do. Clip this right now. That's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to put all of their disinformation people that they have paid operatives, and they're going to put them on TV, and they're going to claim it can't work. That's exactly what they do. This is why you can't open source it. You just have to fucking do it. You have to sell it to people, and then you have to have people that are going, yeah, it does work. Like, I literally saw it. I have one in my backyard.
Torsion physics is a fancy way of saying something that spins like this and something that spins like this. Think of it as like an hourglass shape. I think that it has to do with it representing the way energy moves in the universe. At the biggest levels, like the galaxy, it's a spiral. A tornado on Earth is this vortex motion. Our DNA is a stranded spiral. A second theme is plasma. A lightning bolt is plasma, right? The spark gap in a car is plasma.
Plasma is definitely 100% one. I just did a whole, literally just did an appearance with Professor Simon Howell where we're just talking about plasma physics. Like, no doubt, plasma physics is one of the secrets to advanced technology beyond any shadow of a doubt. The torsion stuff, probably, I don't know for a fact, but the plasma stuff and plasma physics and semiconductors, I've been saying it for months and months and months. Definitely the secrets to this stuff. What did I just do? There we go.
So plasma is the fourth state of matter. Solid water is ice. Add more energy, it melts and becomes water. Add more energy, it becomes steam. And then if you were to add even more energy, say through running an electric current through that steam or through any gas, you end up with plasma. You can think of it as maybe this liminal state or in-between state between the physical world and the non-physical world, whatever that is. There's some evidence emerging that plasma can provide a shielding of inertia. So if you imagine that you're a UFO and you need to zip around at crazy speeds, you can't pump the brakes too fast, otherwise everyone's going to slam into the windshield, right? But if you had some sort of inertial shield around the craft, i.e. like a plasma shield, you might be able to eliminate the inertia surrounding that and keep the occupants safe.
Wait, what? Wait, what? Using plasma can cause to reduce the inertia to keep the occupant. That's how you reduce C. That's how you reduce C in the equations. If you can reduce the inertia with plasma, this is why we're looking at a plasma orb. This is why Salvatore Pius reached out to me. Holy shit, Chad. It's now making sense. The plasma allows you to reduce the C in the equation. This is how you can reduce the energy requirements in order to achieve warp drive. This is how you can use the plasma orbs to create gravitational effects that seemingly would break the laws of physics in terms of the friction that would be produced. This is why Salvatore Pius was reaching out. Holy crap.
I think this is why the UFOs seem to glow. Plasma glows. A third theme.
This is why they're glowing. The plasma glows. Look, there's a triangle right there. What?
Is that of the ether. The conventional or mainstream
Yahtzee! Did he just say the ether?
Understanding of the base level of reality is maybe the quantum sea, tiniest particles all bumping into each other. The ether conceives of this differently. It says that there's a kind of a fluid geometry that is the base layer of physical reality, and that to understand that fluid geometry is to be able to really understand electricity, magnetism.
Yeah, so okay, now I understand why everybody wanted me to watch this. Every time people ping me and tell me something to watch something like 100 times, like I know it's because it's literally everything I'm talking about.
And gravity. And this, according to Tesla and others, is the key to really understanding what he was getting at with all of his wireless transmission of energy stuff. But I believe that we're going to see something like a return of the ether. It won't be called that, but it'll be something like that. That's going.
Yahtzee. We're gonna see a return of the ether. What? Who is this? Chat. JK Philly fan. DM me who this is. We got to find this guy. Whoever this skinny nerd is wearing the black, we got to find this guy. He needs to be on Hard Truths tomorrow.
Going to enable us to make much more progress in these areas in the coming century.
This gentleman, he had a car.
Hi, feds. Hi, feds. I guarantee you there's feds watching this right now. 1,000% sure. I am 1,000% sure. Holy shit. We might have to clip some of this. Well, how deep are we in this? 58 minutes?
That would run on water, but it had to be modified.
A local inventor has discovered a way, hear this, to use water to run your car.
It's a major breakthrough that will no doubt make motorists happy. And as Ralph Robinson explains, the Pentagon is also showing lots of interest in this project.
And he always kept that secret. He had a patent that he falsified the voltage and the frequency cycles per second because he didn't want anyone to reproduce it and leapfrog him financially. Again, this crazy inventor syndrome. And what happened, and when he passed away, there was a whole warehouse full of floppy disks and papers and everything, and his heirs wanted to sell it off. What people didn't realize is that this car was the least important thing Stan Meyer had. He had a toroid, and the toroid was a donut-shaped electromagnetic device that had a national security order slapped on it. Because I was going to get it and openly disclose.
Yeah, it's always guys. We learned early on. It's always fucking toroids. It's always donuts. Always. That's how you can, as far as I understand it, that is how you get the magnetic field to basically zero out to get your scalar potential.
The scientific establishment may have ignored the likes of Meyer. The powerful military-industrial complex certainly hasn't. Over the past 10 years, Meyer says he's been quietly approached by many influential organizations who would never admit publicly to their involvement with him.
This was a disaster. If we had a few 100,000, we were going to offer, but we made it clear we were going to open source it. Well, they had an engineering group from Michigan come in who had a lot more money because they had a big backer. And they were going to monetize it, keep it secret, try to repatent it, all the usual crazy ideas, and which would be great if you're just developing a new software program, but not something that's going to change the world forever. Can't do it. They were working on a couple of years. I get this hysterical call. He says, Dr. Greer, we need your help. We need your help. He says, they're on the run for their lives. They've been sabotaged. They've had death threats. And my advice was, forget about Gollum and be in my ring and my precious ring. In this case, it was literally a precious ring. Just put it out there. I will help spread it. We will build these up independently, have labs tested, and you can't.
Chad, I can't believe, like, as somebody that just didn't know anything about any of this a year ago, all this stuff has been out there. Like, holy shit. People just have to wake up. They just have to wake up. Everything has been out there. All this information has been out there. Toroids every single time. People have no idea about plasma physics. That plasma and toroids are just the secret to making all this shit go round. This is why I've been blasting this over social media, because if it ended up being right, I want there to be thousands of people that are aware of it.
Not put that toothpaste back in the tube. You squeeze it hard enough. He says, yes, you're right. That's probably the only way. But they think they can find a safe country to go to. I said, you're going to have to go to another star system, my friend. I literally said that. No way that's going to happen. So sure enough, I find out a few months later, I meet with a high-tech guy in Orange County. That entire team was assassinated. The one survived. It was just crying like a baby in this man's office.
Technology shows that we can release energy up to beyond 2.5 million barrels of oil per gallon of water and do it safely. So it gives us the ability to not only sustain and maintain the economies of the world, but also give us the abilities to handle the environmental pollution problems at the same time.
This sort of encapsulates, 5 or 10 of the suppression techniques, all the way from murder to crazy inventor syndrome, falsifying your patent, trying to make money first instead of proving the science first, etc. And of course, he took this to his grave. He was poisoned and killed at a Cracker Barrel. An ignominious death, if ever I heard one.
Stan Meyer's water engine points us to a deeper mystery
Chad, if I die at a Cracker Barrel, damn, that'll be fucking depressing.
Concerning energy in our universe. Microscopic ball lightning. The late physicist Ken Shoulders developed a technology called charge clusters, which are likened to ball lightning. When they are discharged, they actually tap into the 0-point energy field. This is where most of the power in Stan Meyer's device was coming from.
Wait, what? Ball lightning? He's talking about the orbs? So literally the orbs are tapping into the 0-point energy field for their energy. That's where they're coming. This is why Bob Greer made the video about us. Holy I didn't know about any of this, chat. What? What, chat?
Like Stan, Ken Shoulders faced terrible suppression.
And so I met with this CEO. He says, yes, they approved a $5 million grant from DOE.
Yeah, wait, what
so
the
we could develop
fuck?
this further.
Guys, this rabbit hole just doesn't stop getting deeper. There was this one saying that this Dutch girl that I used to be in love with would say, which was that, I think it's in German, that they would say, like, once you think you're to the bottom of the barrel, then the barrel would just, the bottom of the barrel would open up and you would just, you fall out through the bottom of the barrel. That's how deep this rabbit hole goes. Like, there's no fucking way this could be fake with all of this just way too much corroborating science and people who've been suppressed going back decades. Like, this is just wild.
Because one of the effects it had that they were really pursuing was putting low-level, initially, radioactive waste in these charged clusters, and it would cause isotopes that were non-radioactive to be created. What does this mean? We clean up all the radioactive waste. However, the phenomenon, the reason it was doing it was that it was actually activating, as it were, this baseline energy field that's at the fabric of space and time. And that's what they didn't want out. So in the rarest of events, that grant was published, and these vicious people who want to keep all this stuff secret went into the Secretary of Energy's office and said, pull that grant. And they pulled it.
Another technology to harness the power of ball lightning is being developed by a team of engineers in Florida. They have successfully tested several prototypes that allow any internal combustion engine to run mostly on water.
It's a little quicker, huh?
Good luck for this guy's. This guy right here, his life expectancy is dropping faster than mine is.
This is a phenomenal system, patented, but it runs internal combustion engines on water with a little bit of gasoline in it, so you don't have to modify the engine. It won't rust. What this means is, with Stan Meyer, you really had to have a different kind of engine and spark plug and all that. This conventional spark plug engine, all of it, because it has enough of the lubricant oil in it that it won't just freeze up the engine. And this is really what he's doing. Stan Meyer, this device, and many of the others, Ken Shoulders charged clusters, they're creating these small microscopic ball lightnings that when they discharge are tapping into that 0-point energy field and creating a motive force.
Boom! That's why the concussion from the thunderclap is so huge. There's a huge amount of energy, and it's actually sourced from the vacuum energy. All the dots connected. This is what's happening, right? So how
and creating the motive force.
Yeah, I didn't mean to pause that, but boom, all the dots connected. This is exactly it, right? All of a sudden, once you figure this out, you realize where physics fucked up. You realize there's an ether. You realize this is where dark energy comes from. This is where dark matter comes from. This is why I've been so adamant that I just have seen the answers. Because once you figure this out, boom, now everything makes sense. It's like, whoa, okay, this is why we fucked up. There it is. Oops.
Many times breakthroughs are made because the inventor or the scientist was inspired by looking at nature. The same systems and the same mechanisms that exist in nature that you can see can also exist in the devices that you build. So by trying to mimic that, you can tap into the intelligence that nature has already shown you when it comes to being efficient with the energy transmission
Now, if Trump supports this, he's going to get another 34 charges guaranteed.
mechanisms.
Another current technology was recently investigated by Dr. Greer and his engineering team at an undisclosed location in the Arizona desert.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 magnesium alloy specially configured plates. This thing's the size of a nice sized shoebox.
By the way, I like to imagine there being like scientists that are working on this shit in the black projects and they're watching this stream right now and they're like, shit, this Ashton guy is figuring it out. Like, he's putting the pieces together and like they're just getting excited. Like, imagine when you're watching the Truman Show and you're one of the people that's rooting for Truman, like when he's on the boat at the end and the water's pouring down and they're doing everything they can to stop him to figure out that there's a wall at the end, and then he just runs into the wall And he's like, holy shit, there's a fucking wall. I'm living in a fake reality. I like to imagine that.
The circuitry you see on the right is a misdirect because the guy has crazy inventor syndrome and thinks he can keep it secret and make $1 trillion.
You don't interfere with the big, powerful people. You don't put them out of business. They're still in business. They still have those 50-year leases on the lines and all the power transformers. You'd be able to get one of my power plants, just replace a coal-fired plant, you know. But it wouldn't be big news or anything because I'm just selling electricity to them, okay? And then they're going to say, wow, we're making more money at this plant than we are at the others. So they're going to put them around, you see? They're not going to let me in. They're going to fight me tooth and nail. But I'm going to be very sneaky about it.
This thing, for 3 years, had been sitting in this near a chicken coop in his backyard out in the desert, putting out 3 kilowatts of power continuously, and we cranked it up to 5 kilowatts. No input power. And it's running off the magnetic flux of the space around it that he can tune to any place on the earth so it's correct, and boom. This thing, solid state, no moving parts. We just saw this. But he's a textbook case of making every wrong decision. Tried to patent it. Well, you'll see in a moment what happened. He ended up getting put in prison for a week. He has had sabotage, death threats, murder of people around him.
I spent 8 days in that jail. When I went before the court, the judge said, come here, Doug. He says, read this. You sign it, you go home. You don't sign it, you go to jail. And all it was is I would not ever in my lifetime, ever, through me or anyone else, if anybody else was manufacturing these, I'll go to jail.
And here's the secrecy order he was slapped with. But look at the date. 1984. It's almost 40 years ago. So you're doing the same thing, patent office. People think this is a myth. No, here's a secrecy order.
See, so I don't want to go through that again. I'm scared my family and everybody. So now what we're going to do, we're going to be very quiet. I'm going to build my 1 megawatt. It'll take 2.5 years to build it. Because it's very complicated. I gotta acclimate it to the earth.
Technologies like this and countless others will never see the light of day without a radically new strategy. Dr. Greer is preparing to launch a multi-centered, state-of-the-art research and development lab that will develop zero-point energy technology, live streaming 24/7 for security and transparency. All research results, data, and plans would be released to the world open source, freely available lab that will develop.
I am literally sitting here just reconsidering all my life decisions. Hey guys, if I hadn't already revealed MH370 and the biggest conspiracy ever, I would definitely be second guessing my decisions. But we are all fucking in, baby. All in.
Zero-point energy technology, live streaming 24/7 for security and transparency. All research results, data, and plans would be released to the world open source, freely available to the public and the scientific community. This will require broad public support to make this a reality. With this strategy, zero-point energy is achievable, but it is only half of what has been suppressed.
So what Dr. Greer messed up on is that he didn't learn how the science worked himself. If he had learned how it worked himself, he could have done whatever the fuck he wanted. But because he didn't learn how it worked himself, he thought, oh, people will come to me with their stuff and I'll do it. Nah, man, nah. The thing that he had to realize is that it doesn't matter what your approach is. They will take you out. He listed all the things that they can do, right? He listed them all out. That covers everything. No matter what your approach is, if they want to stop you, they're going to stop you. So because of that, what that means is you need to be blessed. You need to be blessed by the powers that be. If you are not blessed by the powers that be, they will take you out. They will destroy your thing. They will buy you out, whatever. They will discredit you. There's no way to get it out there. You cannot underestimate the apparatus. Remember what the letter to Ashton Forbes said. You talk about them and you don't stop talking. They can manipulate the public perception of any event that they want at any point in time. You need to keep this in mind. If you don't keep that in mind, you cannot be successful.
And now we get into the really cool stuff. Look at the dates. 1919, Kapowski-Frost experiment, where they actually had high-frequency systems where things levitated, defying gravity. And then T. Townsend Brown, and he had very high-voltage systems, electrogravitic, they call it, where high voltage would cause this lift effect. And it would actually create, if you will, a bubble, an electromagnetic field that would allow an object to move at enormous speeds and free of the forces of gravity, what's called gravity control.
An Office of Naval Research report on T. Townsend Brown's electrogravity device includes a transcript of a conversation
52?
between Major General V.E. Bertrandius and Lieutenant General H.A. Craig. Bertrandius remarks, "It sounds terribly screwy, but Friday I went down to a place called the Townsend Brown Foundation, and believe it or not, I saw a model of a flying saucer."
Townsend Brown was an independent experimenter, and he actually worked on, as you can see, very large replications of saucers that he believed were vital for a different type of propulsion.
The big question is, can I prove this? This I consider to be
That's Michael
a very
Schratt,
serious-
or Schratt, right? That's Michael Schratt right there. I wanted him on my Hard Truths. He's a historian. The problem with the lies, guys, is like, it's not enough to just be a historian. You also have to figure out how the science works yourself. That's how you can basically tell other people how it works.
Rosetta Stone. This is Young Men magazine. The article is titled, "The G Engines Are Coming. By far the most potent source of energy is gravity. Using it as power, future aircraft will attain the speed of light." Now, in this article, they give you the names, they give you the time frame, they give you the dates, they give you the defense contractors, universities, and research centers that are actively pursuing cracking the gravity barrier. They talk about the Lear Corporation, the Sperry Rand Corporation, the Bell Aircraft Corporation, all trying desperately to crack the gravity barrier. And it's clear from the eyewitness testimony, they've done it.
And then we have Michael Schratt to thank for this, great archivist and historian. And he's found these journals that date from the 50s, 1956, where the big buzz in the aerospace industry was anti-gravity, quote unquote, the G engines.
Somebody get me Michael Schratt, guys. Somebody who knows Michael Schratt. I need to talk to this guy. We're overdue for a chat.
Gravity engines. And this was actually in the open literature until they figured out how it really works and it all went black.
Now, where did they get the technology? This was an interesting crash retrieval. This is prior to Roswell. This is November 1946. This was seen by a courier who went to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and he had a guard, an MP who he was friends with. And this guard said, "You know what? I got something I want to show you." So he brought him into this facility at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and there was this craft sitting there. And this little red dot that I have here shows you the attempted point of entry. They were using a diamond tip drill bit to try to get into this craft. So the question is, if this is one of ours, why would they be trying to get into this? So is this the beginning origin point of a reverse engineering program?
In some of the UFO crash retrieval material, we've looked at it and we found that the materials used are very strange.
When extraterrestrial material is recovered through military crash retrievals and its metallic structure is examined under a microscope, the metal is so pure that we could not replicate it, even in a vacuum in space.
So this is the part where I'm like, is this starting to be disinformation now because we've already figured it out? I watched part of the Fluxliner video already, guys. I forget what his name is, but I've already watched the significant part of it.
This is because extraterrestrial crafts are not manufactured on a Ford assembly line the way humans would manufacture something. Everything in the material universe has a frequency and a corresponding sound vibration that creates and sustains its being. Extraterrestrials manufacture objects by first creating a resonant frequency. For instance, the frequency of a flying saucer. This is a sort of vibrational blueprint that interacts with the substrate of the physical universe, pulling into existence from other dimensions atoms and molecules that then organize and condense into the structure of the object being created. In this way,
Chad, is this possible? I never even thought about this. Yeah, what? You guys just hear what they just said? They basically just use some kind of frequency and then it just this sounds like Star Trek replicator shit, right? What? This starts to sound like what's his guy? Terrence Howard, what Terrence Howard was saying. That's beyond me. I don't know, Chad.
extraterrestrial material is literally manifested into being, like transdimensional 3D printing or Star Trek's replicator technology.
Holographic printing? Yeah, it's a replicator. Man, if replicators are possible as shit, we're about to go straight up to Star Trek, Chad.
Moving on to 1963. This is a Marine. He was called from Cherry Point, North Carolina, to an undisclosed location, and his job was to guard something there. And when he got to this facility...
Does this remind you of the 4chan leaker? They said they build the UFOs to spec. It sounds kind of like that.
They opened up these doors, and
even I'm skeptical of this because this sounds like technology that's thousands or millions of years more advanced than we're at.
He saw, propped up on scaffolding, this 40-foot diameter dish-shaped craft that looked like a fat hamburger. It was about 15 feet tall. He noticed that there was a white circle painted on the floor, and his job was to shoot to kill anyone who would try to breach that circle. They were trying 3 ways to get into this craft. Number 1 was a diamond tip drill bit. So we've got 2 cases of this now. Number 2 was an acetylene torch. That failed. And then the final attempt was bringing in 2 18-wheeler tractor-trailer low-boy trucks that had these very high-voltage generating devices, and they were using a laser to get into this craft.
In a previously unreleased interview with aerospace designer Brad Sorensen describes a secret air show that took place at Norton Air Force Base on November 12th of 1988, a classified military exhibit in which so-called alien reproduction vehicles were unveiled. The craft were hovering off the floor with no landing gear underneath and nothing supporting it from above. When asked, where did they get these concepts from, Sorensen states, they said they copied it.
By the way, these went all through the solar system. The components, Mercury era, 1959 to 1960s, early 60s. So these were operational. When did we master gravity control, where these were being functionally built by classified projects? Here on Earth, not extraterrestrial. October 1954. So here we are, riding on the surface of the roads in cars belching out garbage and pollution. When I say a lost century, it really is.
They were already working on these programs as early as 1948. During the Clinton administration, they were spending $100 million a day on black budget programs. The big question is, has this been integrated into the aerospace industry? And if we look at what the witnesses are reporting, they're reporting similar things across time, across dates, locations. Now, this is March 23rd, 1966. This is Temple, Oklahoma.
So I'll be honest, guys. I've heard that this is legit, but I have a hard time believing it. I just don't know what's real and what's not when it comes to where the technology came from.
Primary eyewitness name is Eddie Laxon. He was an electrical engineer. He was working at Shepherd Air Force Base. So he's commuting to work. It's about 5:06 in the morning. And I want to stress that this is not my case. This is an actual United States Air Force Project Blue Book case, and it can be verified through Project Blue Book. So he's going to work in the morning, and all of a sudden, something is blocking the road in front of him. And he notices something that looks all the world like a tipped over bowling pin. It's about 75 feet across. On the starboard side of the craft that you see here, there was an air stair cutout door and a man. I want to stress this was a man. This is not an alien. He was wearing 2-piece green military fatigues. He had a baseball cap with the bill turned up, and he was shining a flashlight near the bottom of the steps. Above this air stair door, there was an interesting stinger or spire that tapered back and swept back to the end of the vehicle. And at the end of this spire, there was about an 8-inch diameter sphere. And that's interesting because I keep getting reports from the eyewitnesses of spheres and balls and protrusions and prongs sticking out of these UFOs. And if you look at what the eyewitnesses are describing to us, and you look and examine high voltage electrical equipment, it's a match. I believe I can make a case that the components that people are seeing on these UFOs are off-the-shelf high voltage electrical components. When this gentleman, who was this military green fatigue gentleman, when he noticed that he was being watched by Eddie Laxon, he scurried up this ladder, he slammed this door shut, and then there was a high-pitched drilling noise. This craft levitated off the ground and then took off like a spark on a grinding wheel and made no sonic boom whatsoever. This is back in 1966. Rockets are obsolete. Solid rockets are obsolete. Jets are obsolete.
Yeah, people ask, like, you need to connect the ether to consciousness. Not really. I definitely don't need to do that. Why do I need to do that? I don't care about it. I'm not trying to solve the meaning of life, chat. I'm just trying to make the world a better place. I don't need to solve the meaning of life. I'll leave all that for other people.
So how can all this be true and we're still flying jets? This
That's
Elon
the big
Musk
question,
tweeted
huh?
this out.
Yikes, chat.
That's all very comical. It's not comical when astronauts I know have friends that died in this the Challenger tragedy.
Challenger chat. I did not realize that there's doppelgangers for like everybody who was in the Challenger out there. I'm not going to dig into that, but holy shit, is that weird. There's people that look just like the people that died in the Challenger that have the exact same name, that were born in the exact same year, and two of them have identical twins as well. What? Like literally identical twins in their family. Like it's like I'm trying not to get into it, but what the fuck, chat? What the fuck?
Flight controllers here looking very carefully at the situation. Obviously a major malfunction.
We're awaiting word they're holding their.
Yeah, I mean, they have the same face. Like, they literally look identical. They have the exact same birthday, and they have the exact same name. Like, okay, what? And there's like 3 of them with the exact same name, birthday, and face. And then 2 of the other ones have identical twins as well. What? How is that a thing I never heard of? How is that, like, that's just fucking insane.
Breath, just I'm sure as everyone else is, in the center of the fire and the smoke, you can't see any form of what was once a shuttle.
Here they are, going up on a Roman candle 40 years, 50 years, 60 years after we already had gravity control. This is the biggest cover-up and scandal in the known history of the world, full stop.
We've already got the technology to do away with solid rocket boosters. We've already got the technology to
Yeah, I don't trust a goddamn thing NASA does. I trust nothing NASA does, period.
take away completely liquid rockets. Why wasn't the Challenger crew briefed on this technology if we already had the breakthrough in 1954?
And so then people get into, how can this be? I put this out a lot because it's a not declassified document. But you have an organization called MAGIC, MAJI, Majority Intelligence Committee, and a few others that run these covert projects. They are beyond black. What do I mean? They're unacknowledged special access projects. I'm sure you also unacknowledged. But these are the projects that are off the radar, even of the people who manage the black projects. So I call this beyond black. These are way off the book. And this was a security alert with a distribution list back in the 90s. So I gave this some people in the Pentagon, like Admiral Wilson, who I briefed, who was the head of intelligence, Joint Chiefs of Staff, and they got inside the program. I'm doing that now for a whole new generation of people since the law was passed to get to the bottom of what UFOs are, or what they call now UAPs. Nobody calls them that. So
Spoiler chat, the moment I'm done with MH370, I'm exposing the fuck out of NASA. I am going to expose these motherfucking NASA frauds like you have no idea. Columbia disaster, that's next on the list. Columbia, you are next on the list. Not Challenger, Columbia. You are getting exposed next. You know it's coming, NASA. You know why it's coming. We're exposing that shit. Oops.
ridiculous. Let me tell you what a UFO, UFA, they make up these fake names that are obfuscating unexplained aerial phenomena, like ball lightning or something. No, it isn't. First of all, it's not unexplained. Secondly, it's not aerial, and it's not just some phenomenon. They're either man-made UFOs or extraterrestrial. That's it. Keep it simple. The hardest thing for the senators and the White House people and the general public, and particularly the media, to understand, or scientists, is that if this is true, how could it be that it has been kept secret from the people? They're very good at counterintelligence. So it's structured, as Eisenhower warned us, beware the military-industrial complex.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
A very strong warning of what he saw coming, because he'd been living with it for 8 years. The CIA was only created in 1947, and the Pentagon...
Chat, the Challenger doppelgangers, their name is exactly the same. They look the same, their name is the same, and their birthdays are the same. Or at least the same year, they're the exact same age. That's the weirdest part. And then two of the other ones have literal identical twins. What? I mean, what the fuck? And then the argument is, well, they didn't know the internet was going to happen because that was in 1986 or something like that. So therefore, they didn't realize the internet would happen and that they would get exposed later on. Like, I'm trying not to like believe in conspiracies, but what the fuck?
And its generals were, gaining much more power, and as the nuclear age progressed, and Eisenhower saw it. The combination of military power with industry. If you think about what the industrial part is of the military-industrial complex, the industrial is basically the fossil fuel giants.
Yeah, somebody did the math. It's literally impossible. Like, that's the part I can't get over. Like, the fact that you'd have three people with the same name, with the same age, with the same face, just impossible. Frankly, impossible. Like, especially in one country, it's just not possible, man. That's the part I just can't get my head past. Like, I want to be like, oh no, it's impossible, but no, it's making sense.
And the chemical companies, and the now increasingly the pharmaceutical companies, that are running rampant and increasing their wealth by astronomical proportions.
This is just the value of the raw materials. Look at these numbers: $150 trillion in oil. That's actually an underestimate now. 40 trillion in coal, $1 trillion in uranium. But that's just the raw. When you multiplier effect, when you take it from there to retail and creating the energy, it's many more hundreds of trillions. And that's what's being protected, along with the Bretton Woods petrodollar, where they decide to make the dollar the reserve currency of the world, but it's based off the petrodollar. So the entire macroeconomic, global economic system is sitting on a crumbling foundation of the energy system we use. And it's going to have to be transitioned. It should have happened 100 years ago. Now we're out of time.
The malefactors of great wealth, as Teddy Roosevelt once warned us about. Writing the laws, being politicians.
Oh, sorry, it's been debunked. PolitiFact calls it fake. Yeah, okay. Well, I might look that up after this.
Just to write the laws that they want. Why is that happening? Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote the introduction to both editions of my recent book, which was Horsemen of the Apocalypse Became Climate in Crisis in its most recent version. And he said this, which I think is quite apropos to what I've been talking about today. They work together in lockstep, coordinated by Capitol Hill trade associations, lobbying firms, captive agencies, and paid-off politicians to increase authoritarian control, to transform all of us into mindless consumers, to shift middle-class wealth to billionaire plutocrats, and to liquidate our Purple Mountain majesties and our entire planet. They have declared war on democracy and personal freedom.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, his own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue his own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
So get your mind around this. There is the government, constitutional government of the United States. And then there's this other secret government operation, which has more money, more power, more technology. It is a criminal enterprise. It is not sanctioned by the president. It is not sanctioned by Congress. And yet they're using our tax dollars and are raping the planet and destroying the earth and impoverishing half the planet. That's what we have to fix.
We've got at least 109 UFO crash retrieval cases. All we need is one to be correct. And if they exploited the technology associated with these craft and procure that and put it into our aerospace industry, they have made a tremendous breakthrough in aerospace technology that I think that...
Chat, PolitiFact made a new fact check 2 days ago because it got so huge. Just when I saw it like 2 days ago, and it was going viral. And they just did a brand new fact check we're going to do right after this on the Challenger thing.
That our Challenger astronauts should have been briefed on, our Apollo astronauts should have been briefed on, and we could have avoided all of this obsolete technology, and we could all move forward to that wonderful world and are not basically bound to these oil industries.
Some people wonder why we don't know more about this. Why isn't...
Hi, CIA. Hi, intelligence community. I hope you're having a good day tonight. I'm sorry you have to stay up late and you have to monitor my communications, but I hope you're enjoying the movie tonight. Appreciate it.
The media telling us what's really going on. We have about 15 billionaires and 6 corporations controlling 90% of the media in the United States. We've got AT&T, Comcast, Walt Disney Company, National Amusements, that includes Viacom and CBS News, and Fox Corporation. They rely on advertising revenue, and that's going to mean they're towing a certain line.
This is a CIA document. It was released. I was surprised it was released, and it says that we have a relationship with every major wire service, newspaper, News Weekly, and television network in the nation. In many instances, we have persuaded reporters to postpone, change, hold, or scrap stories that could have adversely affected national.
Good point. They're probably just recording it. So I hope you're having a good morning. I hope you got some coffee. I hope you have a great day. I hope my stream wasn't too boring for you CIA agents. I hope you learned something. Maybe some of you got red pilled.
Security interests or jeopardize sources and methods. Here's another part of your Truman Show everyone's been forced to live in. The idea that we have a free press or that we have a free market economy. Pray tell any economist in here, I challenge you, how do we have a free market if the most important scientific breakthroughs of the last 100 years have been ruthlessly confiscated, people murdered, and kept off the market? No, it's a controlled economy. It's a controlled media. It's an abomination, and it's killing the planet.
There were days when I wished I had never seen free energy. The amount of pain that you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning because you can't do anything, and you know that pollution can be cleaned up. And
Nah, there's 0 days where I wake up and I don't wish I knew how free energy works. Knowing how free energy works is fucking awesome.
everyone is on the same economic basis. And because you're powering everything with the free energy, you can do really what the philosopher Joseph Campbell said.
No disrespect, but this guy's a pussy. Bro, if you don't want to know how free energy works, just get off my planet and go to Mars.
He said to seek after your bliss. And I think that free energy does it.
And so what do we do? Well, the current paradigm we just went through, the new would be unlimited abundance, no poverty in 20 years. There would be no poverty on Earth in 20 years with these technologies. Universal peace, because you're not fighting over everything now. And
see, Dr. Greer gets it, like no poverty. Like if you have free energy, you can fix all the homeless crisis, all this bullshit. It's just like these are minor problems.
Earth in harmony with humanity and the biosphere restored.
It's important to realize that the technology that is required to heal Earth already exists and has existed for a long time. That the problem is not fundamentally technological. If we came into
the problem, guys, got to go full screen. The problem is not technological. It's also not a matter of open sourcing it. It's already been out there. The problem is raising people's collective conscious. That's the first problem, because people are just literally like NPCs, waking people up like, hey, wake up, man. Here's the information. And the second problem is just commercializing it. Don't try to fucking convince people. Just get it on the market. The moment people start realizing that it works, the demand will automatically follow up. Like, look at how Tesla worked, where people were like, they wanted electric cars to work because they believed in the idea of electric cars. That's the model. There you go. If for some reason I disappear, I just gave you the secret sauce.
To coherence around the goal of healing Earth, we could do it in 5 years because the capacity of life to heal is just incredible. But we're just in the way of it all the time. I mean, even look what happens if you stop paving over a parking lot. In 5 years, cracks appear. Weeds are growing out of it. In 15 years, you see chunks of pavement here and there, and trees are growing. In 50 years, you don't even know a parking lot was ever there. In order to maintain Earth in a state of ugliness and unlife requires constant effort, because the power of life to live is so strong. That's what life wants to do. It wants to live.
We only make 100 million cars a year. If we converted like that, which is not going to happen, all manufacturing of automobiles to these 0-point energy generators, it would take, do the math.
How funny is it that I compared 0-point energy or, extracted energy from ether to cars? Like, that's the best comparison because of how much cost it takes to produce. It's like producing a car. It's like, that's the best comparison for it. Yeah, if you were to flip it overnight, that's not how it works. That's not how economics works. It's a slow, gradual change. And if you try to force too much change, you're going to get resistance, and then you're going to get fucking heart attack gunned or whatever it is. Like you gotta slow it down, man.
15 years. We barely have 15 years left. The date I've been given, 2035 to 2040, and we're done.
What does that mean? Dude, what are you doing, Dr. Greer? 2035, 2040? Then we're done from what? I guarantee you that's bullshit. The aliens aren't going to beam down in 2035 and zap us to the moon or whatever bullshit he's talking about. That's not how any of this works. This is where he hurts himself, where it's just like, dude, just stick to the technology. Don't put ultimatums on this shit. Like, that's where you're going to kill yourself with in terms of credibility.
The scale of the transition is almost unthinkable. There are an estimated 14 million kilometers of paved roads across the Earth. There are many millions more of power lines comprising the so-called smart grid. A real smart grid would be no grid at all. We need a compassionate transition. Instead of displacing millions of workers who support today's energy infrastructure, we must enlist them in the radical transformation of our world that lies before us.
You've all heard of the Hopi prophecy, probably. There are two lines on the Hopi prophecy. Right now, our entire planet is on the line.
The Hopi prophecy? This man is talking about Native American prophecies now? Come on, bro. Please, come on. Like, this is where I tell people we don't need to dig into sacred geometry and, like, meaning of life. Like, bro, just give me the fucking free energy technology. I don't care about Hopi prophecies, man. Like, dude, this is... Why are you doing this right now, man? If I'm in the audience, I'm going, wait, what? Why, dude? Just end. I would be like, hey, just end it right here, man. You did enough. We don't need to talk about the Hopi prophecies.
Line, the upper line that terminates. We're an extinction level event trajectory. That's the path we're on. There's another line in the Hopi prophecies, and that's one.
He just drew a random squiggly line and goes, "This is where life exterminates." Like, dude, bro, please, man. Dr. Greer, please. If you had just stopped talking like right now and we didn't have another 10 minutes left, it'd have been perfect. Oops. Oh no, not like this. We're just gonna go right
so
here.
far off track. The only way to fix it is for the people to unite, come up with a totally different strategy where in a decade to 2 decades, we make up for 100 years. It can happen. And, if nothing else, humans do want to survive. But this is now a survival question for every man, woman, and child on the earth. So that's why we have to do this.
You have to remember also that the capacity for life to heal is almost unlimited. And we see this already with people who are restoring ecosystems and regenerating farmland. Even in a few years, miracles happen. Springs that have been dead for generations come back to life. Species that hadn't been seen in the area seemingly magically reappear. And so we can't forget that. We can't succumb to a despair that is founded in our distrust of the power of life itself, which again is part of the origin of our current condition.
Visualize your house off the grid, clean energy, no wiring. Why? Because every device, whether it's this size device or your refrigerator, will have a small solid state quantum vacuum 0-point energy device in it running it. So there's no electromagnetic fields running through your house because you don't need wiring. Think what that'll do to construction costs and the simplicity of it. And here we are in the Sahara Desert, and you want to grow food? You create a biosphere dome. It's run on free, clean energy, as we've demonstrated. You're growing oranges. You can grow crops. You can have different zones in it for different temperature and humidity control. So anywhere on the planet that you need to have foods, it could be done under controlled circumstances, digitally automated, but with no cost for the energy and the water, virtually none. What that means is the food scarcity and starvation we're facing, that goes away very quickly in a 20-year period.
Yeah, what does this have to do with the Hopi prophecy? I feel like we just went completely off the rails here. I mean, okay, keep going, Dr. Greer.
Here's your typical street in your neighborhood, anywhere in the world. And as we bring these technologies out, the grid comes down. We don't need it anymore. When there's a snowstorm or hurricane or whatever, you don't lose power because you're not dependent on a grid that's going to be torn down by ice and snow and wind. You don't need wires. All these wires, it's a clutter of wires. You don't need them because every device will have its own source of energy. This could have been done decades ago. As we bring these out, all these freeways will be replaced. All the lines and power lines will go away.
Why would the freeways get replaced? I don't understand this part. Why would the freeways get replaced, Chet? Like, we still have to move around. Like, if I go to the park, there's still a path because I have to walk around. Why would the freeways get replaced? The freeways aren't powering anything. There's a mechanism for cars to drive on. This is the part where it's like, again, you're reaching a little bit too much, but okay, fine.
And float above the surface. And in every city in the world, we're going to see this transformation. Every village in
Why are the trees growing everywhere? What does 0 point energy have to do with trees growing on rooftops? I'm not following that either.
the world. And then we have these cities, eventually where you're just floating, they're guided pathways, the ground is pristine, and then we're going out into space. So everyone remember where our destiny is. Our destiny is not just Earth, it's the whole cosmos. How is that going to be possible? The only way we're allowed to go outside our solar system is if we become a peaceful civilization. Otherwise, it's locked down. We are considered a planet that is dangerous and armed.
Each one of us is very invested in the world as it is. We've built careers, relationships, and goals based on a world that doesn't include ETs and anti-gravity and free energy
you're
and healing
on fire. I
devices
can't even
and
click
all
on
this
your
cool,
shit
abundant
so
stuff.
fast.
And so we need to understand and really know if we are ready for that investment to be disrupted. So one of the most powerful things that any of us can do is to look in our own hearts, imagine the world that could be, and ask ourselves, are we ready for that? If the answer is
Dr. Greer's ashing on weed.
yes, then hold that readiness in your heart in all the excitement that it's due. If the answer is no, if there are some lingering doubts or fears or concerns, then go into that. Follow that. That's an important thread that you can follow back to something inside of you that needs attention. It's that obstacle that may be keeping us from living in this new world.
The Rendlesham Forest in the Air Force Base in 1980.
Wait, this is what Professor Simon Howell was talking about, the Rendlesham Forest. I don't really know anything about it. Here we go.
Roughly pyramid-shaped craft landed. You've all heard this count probably, but I'll recount it for you. And the part that's classified you don't know. There were these kind of luminous beings that literally teleported, floated outside this black pyramid and communicated with these Air Force officers. And the ET said, we are your descendants who have become interstellar. But we are from 500,000 years in the future. And we are now here. They basically materialized time travel to 1980 because this was a covert nuclear weapons facility that if that had been disclosed could have triggered World War III. And saying, you've got to stop doing this. If you stay on this path, we, your children's 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 children, 20,000 years into the future, we won't exist. That was...
Didn't you just say 500,000 years? Now it's 20,000 years? Okay.
42 years ago. So they have been warning these civilizations from other star systems. Some of them are...
The thing that is weird, there's a very weird time travel aspect to warp drive, which does make me wonder if you can have some retrocausality implications. But going back 500,000 years seems questionable.
Our descendants, not all, but some are. But the key thing to remember here is that the fact that happened is a message of great hope. It means that there is a chance, a good chance, if we reach into our higher consciousness and we go forward with a strategy that isn't based on materialism and greed. This is a massive undertaking, my friends, but I'm convinced we can do it, but we have to completely rethink how we live, how we act, and the whole business model of what we're doing. And if we do that, here's the world we're going to have. We will be remembered.
Chat, put a 1 in the chat if you want Professor Simon Howell on Hard Truths podcast. 1 in the chat if you want a Professor Simon Howell Hard Truths podcast. I just want to see how much interest we got.
It's a generation that pulled ourselves off the extinction line of the Hopi prophecy and moved on to the one that goes on forever. Thank you all. We can do it.
Nelson Mandela once said, our human compassion binds us the one to the other, not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learned how to turn our common suffering into hope for the future. We have every reason to have hope. The solutions already exist. If we come together as one human family, we can reclaim our lost century.
Damn, this is good. Okay, so I think a lot of people want Professor Simon Howell. I might have to hit him up. I might have to hit my boy up. Maybe talk about some Rendlesham Forest. I don't know anything about this stuff. That's the UK's thing. Okay, guys. Wow, that was really good, guys. That was really good. Holy crap. Yeah, so there's a few people that are on my short list of people that I want to talk to for sure. I'd say Professor Simon Howell would be a good one to talk to. I could talk to him about a lot of different stuff. Who else would I want to talk to? Tim Ventura for sure. Tim Ventura is way up there because Tim Ventura has talked to a lot of these guys these engineers that we've been talking about. Tim Ventura has talked to them personally. And I'm not sure what to think about Tim Ventura. If you've talked to a lot of these guys and you haven't figured it out, it does make me question you. But I think he's a good guy from the little interactions that I've had. I probably want to talk to Matt Rife as well because he's an engineer who has been engineering his own stuff for a while. But there's a number of people that I would love to talk to, and I need to start firing back up my Hard Truths podcast here pretty soon, guys. This has been wild. Ken Wheeler, maybe not. I don't know, man. People love Ken Wheeler, huh? I've watched a lot of Ken Wheeler's stuff. Like, I think he's on it if it comes to like Electric Universe kind of stuff. I have kind of changed my perspective on him in general. But I don't know if he's exactly the guy I want to talk to. I probably need to make a list. I do have kind of a list of people that have actually asked me that they want to talk to me as well. But we'll see. Yeah, the problem with Ken Wheeler is that like he's way too narcissistic in terms of like the way he talks about his own intelligence. And I need somebody that's like more down to earth. Like what you just heard too is like the reason why the engineers talk to me is that I'm a guy that can just break it down normally. I'm not sitting here talking about Einstein's an idiot and these people are morons and blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't give a fuck about your personal beefs, man. Just break it down for me. You know, like tell me how the craft flies. Tell me how the shit works. Then we move on. I do want to talk to Joseph Farrell as well. We did get to talk to Mike Harris. Mike Harris interview. If you did not check out the Mike Harris interview with Kayvon, forgetting his last name, check it out, guys. Check it out. Salvatore Pius, I think, has been gagged. He gave away a little bit too much. I think the Navy told him he needs to stop talking. I don't know that for a fact, but my interactions with him, it's kind of what I've been told. Actually, I might email him tonight. Okay, guys, I'm going to go to sleep. I think that's good for tonight. I'll play us out with one of our other songs. Real quick, I do want to do a shout out to the Cosmic Summit. I think it's almost sold out. And I know I told you guys I would give you guys do like giveaways for passes or something like that. I'm going to try to make that happen in the next week or so for virtual passes. I do want to give away a few out. And I want to make sure that some of my admins who want have those passes as well. I will not be directly doing any presentations. I'm mostly going as let's call it an honored guest, maybe. But I do plan to talk to like all the people. I get to talk to Johanna James. I get to talk to Jordan from Alchemial Science, Malcolm Bendel, Bob Greenier, Robert Schock. I'm going to be talking to a lot of fun people. So it's going to be awesome, guys. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. That was wild, man. I'm really glad you guys recommended that to me. Thank you very much, MH370X. Hope you guys have a great night. We're going to do some more science streams. Honestly, I'm going to be mostly focusing on science streams going forward just because, like, I think we've reached that point now. We're hitting that critical mass where it's like the science is there. I want to just understand it better and better and better and better, and I want you guys to understand it as well. I'm going to play us out tonight with one of my favorites, MH370X Cypher. This song is awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a great night, everybody. Peace, everyone.
Out in the fields where the skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism, plates so fine. Spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, opening gates from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.